The opinions expressed within the content of this podcast solely that of our guests and do not reflect the views and beliefs of the Bigfoot and Paranormal Encounters podcast, its hosts or its affiliates.
Welcome to Bigfoot and Paranormal Encounters podcast. And now your host, Dave Weichert.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Bigfoot and Paranormal Encounters podcast. And, frog in my throat, last minute. Joining us is my co-host, Mr. Randy Stewart. How are you, sir?
What's up, my brother? How you doing?
Oh,
it's a beautiful day in Las Vegas today. How's it about you?
It's beautiful here in PA. Yesterday we had some storms, but today it's much more beautiful. Beautiful day. So tonight we have a wonderful guest. I've had him on before. And he does great speeches about giants, aliens, alien abductions, and knows quite a bit about Bigfoot. So without further ado, I'm going to bring in Mr. Robert Solomon. Robert, how are you, sir?
Hello. Good evening, gentlemen. How are we doing today?
Hello, Robert. How are you today, sir?
Excellent. It's a nice day here in Ohio, not Australia, but a nice day here in Ohio. It's been a beautiful day, just doing normal stuff, mowing the lawn and things like that. So I just staying out the way today,
Well,
there you go.
The lady thought you from Australia, thought you were going to get some kangaroos and, some shrimp on the bobby, I guess.
Maybe some didgeridoos or something.
Some didgeridoos.
Didgeridoos.
So, Robert, let's go ahead and start the podcast off by you telling us a little bit about yourself.
Well, my name is Robert Solomon. I am a researcher of all things paranormal, esoteric, you name it, everything from different religious texts and different religious ideologies, all the way down to ghosts and everything in between that, giants and vampires, mummies, all that. So, yes, I enjoy all of it. There's so much to learn out there in the world, and if you're not learning it, then what are you doing? I think it's a good thing to kind of get an idea of where we come from in our past so we can have a better idea of where we're headed in the future.
Great. Randy?
You know, I was really looking forward to doing the show with you today because of,
Thank you.
you know, I'm a Bigfoot guy. Had many experiences with Bigfoot, experiences with other things, but I'm really into this giant thing.
Thank you.
I gotta ask you now.
Yes, sir.
You know, because I want to ask is the guy's his name just clipped out of my head, but you know who I'm talking about. The cop that saw that giant walk through the wall, and the wall closed behind him and had the little slit.
Now, see, I just want to say, and thank you, Bill Rigby. Bill Rigby is an awesome human being, and I actually got to present at one of his conventions that he did. So thank you, Bill, for that comment. I appreciate you. Now, every day, I hear something new, something I don't know anything about, something I haven't heard before. You, sir, have given me that thing for the day that I did not know. So please tell me more, because I am all ears about this one.
He was a police officer. I believe it was in Washington State, and Washington, Oregon State. He was up there. He was driving by, and he saw this large object cross the road. He said this was almost a story to 2 stories tall. He said it walked up to the mountain and pulled the mountain open, went inside and closed it like a door. At the top of this mountain, midway, there is a cutout. Like, you know, you can look through it.
Yeah.
Now, people have tried to climb up that, and every time they climb up it, something vibrates, knocks them down, whatever it is. But he has pictures, well, he had pictures of this giant as it was closing the door, closing the wall of the mountain. And when he brought it to everybody's attention, people started climbing up there. And they said, "Oh, you're crazy." So he got that picture, and now he has disappeared. No one can find this gentleman because they said he was crazy and all kinds of stuff. And now he's nowhere to be found.
That's a very interesting. So you say about 2 stories. So let's go.
Yeah, he said, well, if you look at the mountain that he walks into, I'm going to see if I can find this picture for you while we're doing this. And he said it opened up the side of a mountain like a door.
Mm-hmm.
And this mountain is not a little mountain that he walked in, this giant walked into.
So if we go back a little ways, we're going to go back just a bit here. We're going to go back in Islamic hadiths, which are the exogenesis aspects of Islam. It's kind of like if you have commentaries from your church fathers like Tertullian, who add commentary to biblical scriptures, because this was commonplace when, biblical studies were very serious in the I want to say dark ages, a little bit before. They talk of a man named Abel, or it's spelled different in Islam. And he was about 30 feet tall. And so what I'm imagining in my head is this 30-foot tall being walking right up to essentially, 20, 30-foot tall being walking up essentially to a mountain, opening the mountain up and going inside of it. Now, the interesting aspect of this is a lot of giants in our folklore are tall, like very tall. They're not like, say, your 8 foot to 13, 14-foot tall giants that we have in Native American folklore. These giants are enormous. And a lot of the times we have a lot of biblical stuff from like the Book of Enoch that talk of giants being really tall, being so
Yes.
many ells, being 3,000 ells tall, being gigantic. And so what your story reminds of, it reminds me of this. And another thing that I find interesting too is the area of California, Oregon, and Washington all have some interesting paranormal aspects. For instance, you have Mount Shasta, which is definitely a place I'd like to go at some point because I hear it's highly, highly paranormal, right? Highly
Hold it,
paranormal.
hold it.
Go
Mount
ahead.
Shasta's where he saw the giant.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Now it's starting to make more sense because Mount Shasta is also where the Watchers are, not the biblical Watchers, but these are just beings that stand and watch out. They just look around at people, and people have tried to come up to them, tried to reach them, and they disappear. Mount Shasta is a very energetic place. Like supposedly it sits on a ley line, and a lot of your structures, like your Vatican, your Washington D.C., or your president, that area, all sit on a ley line. Supposedly,
Right.
I'm not going to say it's true. I've never measured the area. I couldn't tell you. So, and in this instance, it doesn't surprise me because I get a lot of what I would like to call occurrences that correlate directly to Mount Shasta. And I've had people tell me, do not go there by yourself. Don't go there alone. You're probably not going to come back. I know people that have property up there that they're even skittish to go to Mount Shasta. So it doesn't necessarily surprise me that something of that caliber happened. Now, the interesting aspect that I would be more akin to learning is, what did the giant look like? Do they talk about what it looked like? Was he able to see the features? Was it at daytime or was it at nighttime?
It was at daytime.
Okay.
It was at daytime. In the morning, it said he was patrolling his car. When he come around the curve, he saw something large go into this mountain, and the mountain closing up behind him. So after that, he said, I remember seeing this on TV. He said he really didn't understand what he had seen, because it didn't sink in. But I guess he went back and he stood there and he waited and actually got a picture or whatever he did, of the giant going into the mountain. And the government took the pictures from him, and people started harassing him about, like the man said, I'm a police officer. Why would I put my job on the line? And since then, he's just disappeared.
I notice that whenever the government gets involved in these cases, which tends to happen when there's pictures or evidence, like the missing 411, for example, very similar references to that. The idea that we see giants today, because a lot of your giant sightings were more or less dealt with in Native American times. A lot of the early folks that came over, they heard stories, they heard tales. A couple of them saw them. We have occurrences down in South America of explorers coming in and meeting with giants and then getting ambushed by the whole race of giants. And after a while, the conquistadors and things, they just drove everything out. They had better technology. The weapons were more advanced, but these beings existed. And what I like to do is, I believe there are two pivotal points in our world, and I like to call them the pre-industrialization and the post-industrialization. Your pre-industrialization, I noticed, has a lot of fae folk, a lot of fairy tales, like tales involving fairies and fae folk, a lot more magic in terms of nature being more giving. Post-industrialization, you have a lot more UFO sightings. You have the studying of atomic energy, and the reports and the studies that I have came across during my research kind of pinpoints that. And giants seem to sit right before. They seem to sit pre-industrialization as having existed. Now, one thing to note too is that if there was giants, 8 to 13 to 14 feet tall, which I believe 100%, I don't doubt this at all. There's too much evidence out there for it. If we look further back, were there beings taller than them, and then beings taller than them, and then beings taller than them, and so it keeps going back. And I know a lot of times people say, well, the oxygen wasn't right, but our world has changed so much. And there's different ideas that the poles have flipped and things have shifted. You know, we have tectonic plates that have shifted. The world was once locked as one big, Pangea, as it were. So our world being so old has to have housed many different beings, many different animals, species of tree. I mean, we can go back to the 1800s, and the dodo was still a thing. The dodo still
Right.
existed, and then it obviously died out. It doesn't exist anymore, and there's a couple of things like that. But to say that giants haven't existed, to
Well, you
me,
know,
doesn't make sense. It doesn't. It doesn't hold up against histories. Because I would honestly say, okay, if you had maybe one or two, maybe you had one or two from the ancient times that talked about giants, I could be like, okay, I can write this off. It's it was fancy, right? But when you have Hebrew, Islamic, Christian, you have Native American, you have South American, the Aztecs, Mayans, Incans, you have all that. You have even older civilizations that talk of tales, right? But a lot of them kind of mirror themselves. And so for me, that is kind of interesting. And then when you come on right now and you tell me, yeah, a police officer saw a two-story giant going into a mountain. Now, into a mountain, all right, we're going into an actual mountain here, which means he pulled it open. So that says two things to me. One, if they're able to pull open, depending on how the mountain door was able to be, pulled, is that something futuristic? For one, because when I think of pulling a door open, I think of the hinges that it takes to open that door. I think of the turning of the
right,
knob
right.
of the handle, and I think of the opening. And then you got to think, okay, somebody built that door. The door right behind me. You can see the hinges on the door right behind me. In order for me to get up and open that door, I got to pull the handle down. I got to open it. The door's on hinges. It has to come. If we're saying he did that or she did that, then we're also expanding into some ancient or advanced technology, unless the giant just grabbed the piece of rock and moved it, because they all
Now
they
the
are pretty
door
strong for the
it,
most
do-
I
it
can tell.
has it doesn't have a doorknob. It's got a slot, like a mail slot,
Mm-hmm.
and he puts his hand. This is what I'm just seeing. Puts his hand in the slot and he pulls it open, and goes back in and pulls it shut. And people say that's how he can look out when it's safe. It's a people, and people have tried since then to climb up that mountain and try to look in that slot, and now they're being arrested and all this other stuff. Um, it, it's pretty wild. But what
I,
you're talking. That's what I said, because you'll see the video, and then you'll see the
mhm.
picture, and you'll see it closing like a door with a hand in that slot. So you see the hand in the slot from the inside, and this
Right.
thing shutting.
How old was this
So
report by chance?
this report's over like 8, 9 years old.
So we're looking what, like 2014, 2015,
Yep.
maybe a little bit less. Uh, I would wonder, and this is just the skeptic part of my brain. I'd be
2000 and,
concerned to see.
2012.
Okay, so 2012. Okay. I would like to see what video technology was available at that time, because the skeptic in my brain is always looking for, what's behind the curtain. You see what I'm saying? I don't, as
Oh
a
man, me
person
too.
who is right, as a person who studies these kinds of things, I'm always curious about, okay, what is our first answer that we could come up with for this, right? But then, you got to take into account he's putting his job on the line. And unless the guy has a history of mental, illness, we got to start talking about other things in that regard, because there's things we can't see. There is light spectrums that we can't see. We don't have the ability. Animals can see light spectrums we can't even see. Cats, dogs, things like that. They see things we don't. I wonder if some humans are built the same way. They kind of can see on a spectrum that maybe we can't see. But I find the account very fascinating, no matter how um, outrageous it sounds, because we think in our brains that doesn't a mountain. You're gonna pull open a whole mountain and then close it back again. You know what I mean? So
Right.
in our brains, it sounds preposterous, and we're thinking to ourselves, okay, because we just see other folks. We all know tall people. We all know like 7 foot tall people. Shaquille O'Neal is one of
Yep.
those people. He's a very tall human being. But higher than that, your brain would have trouble comprehending that, I think. Especially if you're seeing it live. If you see it in a movie, there's special effects. Your brain's already been trained to realize that there's special effects regarding these giants. But to see that's fascinating.
Well, look at
That
this.
really is.
You've heard the story about the giant of Iraq.
The Kandahar giant. I believe that was the Afghanistanian giant. I don't know if there's a giant of Iraq, but I know about the Afghanistan giant. I've heard of that one.
The one that killed the 6 soldiers, and they sent another crew in there after him.
And they had to take him out on a helicopter. Yeah.
Yeah, and they took the giant out on a helicopter and told the guys, "Don't talk about it anymore." This is forbidden tongue.
I have always been one, as a person who has studied ancient history and has seen the world climate shift over my 40 some years on this planet. The Middle East is the hottest place for all kinds of skirmishes, wars, everything else. And it is basically the cradle of what I would call our current civilization. I personally believe that civilizations have risen and have fallen all across the earth, but that right there is our cradle. It's where a lot of civilizations began for us. So when I sit back and look at that, and I look at these skirmishes that go on in the Middle East, I have to think to myself, okay, I don't, in my personal opinion, I don't think it's all over oil. I don't think it's all over this and that. I think there's a lot of history there that we don't know about. We have no idea about. We've never once in our lives, well, I personally haven't, not yet anyways, been there. And these are places that are older than anything that we have seen in the United States up to this point. And these are places that people have lived, died, had beliefs, held beliefs, have had whole wars, destroyed, rebuilt. So whenever I hear things about like the Kandahar giant, or I hear things about, any sort of jinn, because jinn are very prominent in Middle Eastern areas, Lebanon, Saudi Arabia, Oman, Yemen, places like that. Heavy Islamic influences, you get a lot of jinn there. And whenever I come across things like the giant of Kandahar being in Afghanistan, I have to wonder if it's a remnant of times past. A lot of folks will say, oh yeah, that was fake and this, that, and the third, and it was made up. But how much of it is true and how much of it is made up? Because we see that. We see that a lot. We see that with giants. We see that in folklore that they have come out with and said, well, this was kind of true, but this wasn't kind of true. So I have to ask myself personally, why are we over there? What are we doing over there? Are we over there? Why is everybody always over there? Why does everybody want to be over there? Nobody's having these giant skirmishes in South America. Nobody's having these giant skirmishes in Africa where, there was whole kingdoms. But it seems like that spot, there's like a stretch of area,
Right,
where there's constant fighting, there's constant problems. There's almost an iron fist rule. I know in places like Lebanon, they actually prohibit magic. You're not allowed to use it. If you get caught with grimoires and things like that, they will kill you. Because they are so afraid of it. They're so
right.
terrified of it. We laugh it off. We're like, oh, that's probably not real. But I've seen things and heard things and that make me think, okay, there's something to this. So to get back to the original concept of the giant of Kandahar in Afghanistan, it's not shocking to me. I definitely could see that happening. I can see these beings still existing. There's been numerous reports of these giant beings in those areas, in places that are older than most everywhere on the planet Earth. So,
Right.
to me, yes. Do I think there's some things in there that may be a little embellished? Of course, I do. I definitely think there's some things that are embellished in there, but I do think that whatever it was, they 100% took it back. They took it back to experiment on because that's what we do. That's what human beings do
Right.
to normal things. Imagine what we do when we find something that's 13 feet tall and something that we didn't think existed. Let's take it. And we need to cut it open. We need to see its organs. We need to see how it breathes. We need to see how its organs compare to that of a regular man. Why does it have this? Why does it have these? In a lot of cases, there were giants with 6 fingers. So
Well,
yeah, oh yeah,
a lot of giant stories have been coming out left and right. I mean, boom, every other day now, almost sometimes there's a giant story. Way I found this was I have a friend who's in the military, whatever, and no, a lot of these guys didn't take the corona shot, so they were thrown out of the military. And he said that this story came out because he figured he was gonna stick it to the United States government, little secrets that were hiding over there, like this giant that they killed, and carried away, and they were told not to say nothing. He says, "What are they going to do to me? Put me in prison? They've already taken my job away from me." So I believe that story of the Kendar giant being real because, okay, you can see how the soldiers got PSD or whatever that is, but why would this guy come out and lie like that? You know what I'm saying? And I believe this story is true.
Like I said, I also believe that it's true. It's fascinating to me regardless because, like you said, there's more giants. Things about giants come out every day, and it's probably because I've been doing all of these presentations. So they're like, man, we got to get these out for Robert to do more presentations about. But I think as we become more of a technologically enhanced society and you can get videos to go everywhere, drones, things of that nature, you're going to get more tales involving these beings, these creatures, whatever you want to believe that they are. Some people believe that they're a precursor race of the intercourse between women and angelic beings. Other people believe that they were the pre-civilization before the mankind you see now, all of us in our height. Still, there are people believe that they're aliens, that they come from distant planets that are so far out that we can't even see. The 12th planet Nibiru type of thing that just comes over when it flies over, people come down. But I think what we're seeing is, like I've said before with giants, I think they are the remnants of a society that existed before us, because we have civilizations, all three of us here, that we'll never know existed because they were completely destroyed. And then if you have places by water areas, you have a place close to a lake, a river, an ocean, you're going to build there. So if there's something there, ruins wise, for the most part, unless UNESCO goes in and saves it, you're going to build on top of it because that's the logical place. You want to build a place where there's water. You got to have water for your civilization, for people to drink, for people to flourish, and then you can move out as your technology advances. But most places have a water system, and that water system, if it's good, they're going to keep building in that area. So when that civilization goes, you build another. Civilization goes, you build another. And with a lot of things that we have seen, some things look as if they could only have been built by giants. Certain buildings look like they could have only been built by something of a taller stature, and you have things like the Nazca lines. Why would you build those if not for something else? Because if it's just on a whim, you need somebody in the air to look down and see what you're making.
Right. Have you ever seen that giant footprint in the side of that rock?
Yes.
So okay. Now, it wasn't chiseled. If you look at it, they're still finding footprints in deserts in different countries of dinosaurs, and Utah and places. So, to me, when I see something that's pressed in the ground like that, it wasn't chiseled out, I'll say, it tells me right there, something made that, and it wasn't chiseled out. So, who stepped on it?
Yeah. I mean, there's been plenty of folks that have those same kind of like Bigfoot, imprints. A buddy
Right.
of mine, Les Odell, he has a couple of those that he's taken plaster cast molds of things like that. And so you have stuff like that, then yeah, they're going to find all kinds of stuff. I think the interesting concept and what we should be doing is looking in places that mankind doesn't have readily accessible navigational abilities to get to. So, like you said, some parts of your mountains, places like that, the lesser walked paths are going to be the places you're going to find where a lot of these beings or these giants have walked. It's going to be your forests, your wooded areas, all through West Virginia, Pennsylvania, and Ohio. There have been documentation of giants.
Right.
There has been, and a
The
lot of people say,
documentation
well,
of giants goes all the way back in the book of Enoch.
yeah, yeah.
Talks about how God put giants on the earth to kind of guard it. And they started having sex with regular women, and all kinds of things went haywire with that, and they were, being destroyed.
Yeah.
Who's to say these giants didn't hide out, weren't all destroyed, or their offspring? Just because they had a normal baby one time, it doesn't mean the second baby can't come out to be, 10 foot, 11 foot, 15 foot tall. Look at Andre the Giant. People have that giant disease.
Right. Well, if we look at Joshua, because the Book of Enoch isn't considered canon, but I just want to put that out there for folks who say, well, the Book of Enoch isn't canon. If we go to the Book of Joshua, we have a giant by the name of King Og of Bashan and his brothers, and we have the Anak, who were also giants. They existed post-flood. The flood takes place in Genesis. It takes place, and all the people wiped out, right? But then you move on into Scripture into Joshua, and you're hitting King Og, and the man's bed was 13 feet. It was 13 feet. The bed itself was 13 feet. And so if we go off of that, giants weren't necessarily all removed. It just seems the most corrupt of that lineage were destroyed. Because we have to remember, in the Book of Enoch, the giants are taller. If we go to Joshua, I think King Og was he was taller, maybe, I'm going to say 10 to 12 feet. The Book of Enoch, the giants are tall, like the two-story giant you were just talking about, a little taller than that. And they were eating man. They were literally eating men.
Right.
We can even go to the most famous giant in the Bible, and that's Goliath. Goliath was also part of a race of giants who had brothers. A lot of people don't read that part. They just read the Goliath part. But he had brothers. There were giants as well. And they existed post-flood.
Right.
So post-flood giants existed because we have King Og of Bashan. We have his family. We have the Anak. The Anak were a race of giants, but also one of them was named Anak, hence the Anakim. And so we have all these post. Okay, so then you go into there. So okay, you're like, well, maybe that's just one aspect of ancient religions that talk about giants. But then no, that's not the case, because we jump right into Islam, and we have a man by the name of Shaddad bin Ad, who was a giant. And if you look at the map of where Saudi Arabia, Yemen, and Oman are, there's a place called the Empty Quarter. Well, the Empty Quarter housed a city by the name of Iram of the Pillars. It was the most beautiful city you could imagine. King Shaddad bin Ad had it built. It was luxurious. It was the city of giants. These were men that were, tall stature, and they helped build this city. And what happens is, much like Sodom and Gomorrah, when the angels came in and they said, hey, if you can find one righteous person, we'll save the city. Couldn't find one. Destroyed it. In this case, they went in. They said, hey, you got to change your ways. Allah wants you to change your ways. He said, we're not doing that. He said, okay. He swallowed it. The sands swallowed the entire city. Race of giants wiped out. And so, okay, now we're starting to see a somewhat pattern of these larger creatures and their ability of destruction, or their ability of to build, to make these giant things. And the interesting part of this, if you gentlemen are familiar with Petra, in Jordan. And most everybody's familiar with Petra in Jordan.
Yeah.
They've seen it. It's iconic. It was in Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade.
Yep.
That
I was just going to say that.
Yeah, that was made by the Nabateans. Well, the Nabateans and the Ad, the people from Iran, they were known as the Ad, AD, they all came from the same place. They all migrated out, but they all stem from the same place. So there's relations there. They were all from the same tribe at one point in one time. And so these are extraordinary beings. We don't tend to delve into a lot of that aspect because a lot of religious things in both Islam and Judaism, Christianity, they have their main topics, and they don't tend to deviate from those main topics when they're having conversations regarding biblical discussions or discussions regarding the Quran. They tend to just stay there. But then if we really, really, really haven't gotten into it by then, we can go into Buddhism, a whole nother part of this function.
Right.
There's giants there. In fact, Hinduism, another one. They had whole wars that involved giant men. Zoroastrianism, Mithras was a giant. And okay, people can say, well, that's religion. That's all fairy tales and man-made stuff. Okay, so we got to do this now again. But then you go into Native American stuff. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. My apologies.
No. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
And then we go into Native American, right? And they start talking about black-haired and red-haired giants. And they didn't like each other. And they fought against each other. And then the Native Americans fought against the red-haired giants who had killed the black-haired giants. And it's just a succession of giants and folklore and what they would say myth. But when you're reading it and you're truly understanding the things that they are telling you, they're not lies. These Native Americans know the world more, or they know that pre-industrialization world that I talked about better than any of us will ever know it. I don't care how many history books you have. These are men and women that lived and wrote these things. Well, oral tradition, and then some of the oral tradition is passed into stories and things of that nature. So it's just like, okay, you keep having these giants crop up, and we can even go into Celtic and Balor and all these other folklore entities, and then we can just go right into Tuscaloosa, actual chief who was also a giant, and his son Black Panther was also a giant. I mean, at some point, we really have to sit back and say, this is a fact. They existed. To what level?
Right.
That's really the bread and butter of all of this. The level that they existed. Were they, like I said, in some of the hadiths in Islam, they talk about Adam being 90 feet tall. Whether that's true or not, that's one of those where, okay, that might be up for debate. However, it talks about his son, Abel, being 30 feet. And it's just like it keeps moving and moving. But the concept of giants, especially with people like you said, Andre the Giant. We got Shaquille O'Neal. We got Yao Ming. We have all these. We have I'm trying to remember his name. I always forget his last name. It was Robert. He's one of the tallest men that's ever existed. He's dead. He's been dead for a while.
9'6" or something like that.
Yeah. He was Ripley's Believe It or Not. Guinness Book of World Records too, if I'm not mistaken. Please, if that's not right, go ahead and let me know in the chat. But these large men exist now. Hey Clint, what's going on, buddy? Thank you, I appreciate it. Thank you. These large men existed throughout time, right? And you start having actual proof. You have the Smithsonian coming in and digging out whole burial mounds. I have been to a few burial mounds, and I plan on going to Moundsville this summer. But I've been to the South Charleston Mound, and it is massive. It's, you're going into town, into South Charleston, you round a bend, and it's right there. It's an ancient burial mound sitting around in 2024.
Right.
Oh, yes, this is a good one, too. Wasn't there a bunch of giant bodies that were found at the Grand Canyon, along with a whole mess of Egyptian artifacts? Yes. Robert Wadlow. Thank you, Tennessee, Kentucky Bigfoot. I appreciate you. Thank you for that. I was trying to remember the last name. The last name always slips me. My apologies. But yes, and that's another thing. The cliff dwellers that a lot of people sort of skim over, they talked about giants. Pueblos, the pre-Pueblo folks talk about giants. And we're so quick to jump on anything Native American. A lot of people want to go, they want to connect to that. But then you bring up giants, and a lot of people are like, no, I don't believe that. But then you have, like I said, you have storytellers that have from generation to generation. I'm sorry, I can't, I don't buy into the fact. Yeah.
There's truth to every story.
Yeah. I don't, out of all the research I've done, and giants has been, in terms of my, of how long I've been researching different facets of paranormal, esoteric, and things of that nature, giants I've been researching for about, I want to say 4 or 5 years now. So I've read many accounts. A lot of people say I don't watch YouTube videos, but I've watched a few YouTube videos. I've read the, biblical texts, Quranic texts, the Kabbalah, all that. I like to read. I like to get into the stuff that I'm researching and really truly understand it, where it comes from, where it's going. And so to me, having done all of that research, having read these texts, you got to piece together something. And at some point, you got to say that's real. Giants, to me, you could no longer sit on the sidelines and say they couldn't have existed. They exist. That's just it. That's it. I don't really know what else to say at this point in terms of, I don't debate the existence of giants. I will not debate that. I've read too much. I've seen too much. I've studied too much for me to even think for a split second that there weren't giants. This is something I've been, like I said, I'm researching for 4 or 5 years now. And so to me, this is important. What do you feel about people who say there are ancient trees which we consider mountains today? So petrification, that's an interesting concept. And I find we see petrification in a lot of things. Fossils, for instance, you find those in stone. Yes, I do. Yes, I do. I 100% do believe that a lot of those, what you would say rock formations, are trees. Yes. And a lot of people might shake their head at me and say this, that, and the third. You don't go out there. You're not a scientist, but you see similarities between trees and a lot of these rock structures. And pareidolia, there's a word for it, and I'm butchering that, and I apologize, where you see something and it looks like something, but it's not that thing. It just kind of looks like that. That aspect to me really tells me that, yeah, that kind of stuff was very much real, and over time, our earth changes. To say that it doesn't change is ridiculous, because there's been reports brought out about how Antarctica was this at one point. It was a lush region. Okay. The Sahara, a lush region. And then you look at like the eye of the Sahara, that circular sort of complex that's there. These mysteries that keep me up at night, that fascinate me, that make me think we were, and not to go off too much of a tangent. Sorry, gentlemen, I get really excited about this.
No, you're good. You're good.
Show me that ancient technology was a whole thing as well. And I want to say thank you, Tennessee, Kentucky Bigfoot. I appreciate it. Thank you for the love. I always appreciate the love that I am given. So thank you very much. And very much, like you said, some of those trees, or she said, ankles of giants. These trees could be that. That's also possible. I like to entertain within a certain realm of acceptance most ideas. There's some things I will never entertain. That's just a personal opinion of mine. I won't do it. But I like to entertain new ideas. And I think this is a good one here. It's very possible. These giants, these things existing, right? They've existed for such a long time. For us to think they haven't, I think, is a whole nother issue. Okay, have one more question without. What are your thoughts on sleeping giants? And by this, I mean pictures of mountains. When you look at them in certain angles, they look like people. Do you think that's, or do you think that could be? I think that one's a little bit tougher. Because, human beings, if they have the same mass as us, not mass, but like the same skin, organs, all that, right? We decompose and we decay. A a lot of times with mummification, it's usually done by other people. It's usually there's been a few like in Tibet and places like that where they self mummify. So that one, I don't know. That's a tough one. There's a snake that has been, a picture of what looks like a snake. It's a rock, but it looks like a snake. And that's been also making rounds. So that one, that one's up in the air for me.
What about the dragon?
Like I said, that's another one of those things. Like I think seeing it on the internet is one thing. I think you need to be there. I think you need to be at the place where that is because you need to, because like I said, I'm not saying that these pictures aren't doctored up and I'm not saying they're not doctored up, but it's easy to doctor up an image on the internet once it's been passed around so much. So for me, unless I'm there, I have to weigh it with a grain of salt. If I'm not there and I like seeing it in person, I'm gonna be like, okay, there's a chance this picture was edited. There's a chance this picture was it's not real. I mean, even if it is real, like it's been edited to so much of a degree that it doesn't look like it should. But being there and seeing it, I remember being in Summersville, which is a place in West Virginia, and there's a big rock formation out in the middle of Summersville. Like it's like a mountain, and it looks like the back of a pirate ship. Looks just like it. Like if you ever see the back of a pirate ship, the old ones, the old man of war ships, it looks like that. And I was like, man, I was talking to somebody. I said that looks like the back of a pirate ship. Now that's something that my brain processed because it looks like that. So my brain's like, that looks like the back of a pirate ship. But petrification is very interesting, and a lot of things have been petrified or have that petrified look, and could very well be the giant entities that we are discussing currently tonight.
All right, we're gonna got that frog again. I'm sorry. We're gonna go to a commercial, and when we come back, we're gonna be talking more with Robert, and I'll have a question for you when we get back. All right, I'll be putting some more information up there for that event. Robert, I have a Bigfoot. Well, actually, Bigfoot and giant question. Bigfoots are super in tuned, and their skills for hiding are tremendously good. Why do you think their bodies are never found?
Okay, so I have talked about this with a couple people because a couple of my friends are, and I didn't mean to type that 3 times in the comments. It just came up 3 times, so my apologies. I didn't mean to do that. So I've had this conversation with a man by the name of Daniel Benoit. I've had it with a couple other gentlemen in the Bigfoot community. And from what I can ascertain, that being the case, one of 2 things in my personal opinion. A, they go off and die in places that man won't look. And they die in places where the decomposition factor is, whatever's around there will eat them. It sort of lets off, whenever they die, it lets off a sort of scent that attracts things to eat it, right? Or they collect their dead. And a lot of ancient civilizations did things very similar. They came and collected their dead. They wouldn't leave the battlefield without their dead. And if they would lose and they had to retreat, they would come back after the enemy left and collect the bodies and give them proper burials. So for me, I think it's one of those 2 things. I think, because Like an animal will do the same. An animal will go off to a place where they can't be found and they will pass. They'll quietly pass away. I think it's very much the same thing with Bigfoot. I think that they go off into their respective places. They know that mankind isn't there because, like I said, they have always been elusive. Um, from what I've read, the little that I've read, because I'm by no means an expert on Bigfoot by any means. I want to make sure I get that out there so people in that community don't fire up in your comments going crazy about what I'm saying. But I think that they 100% come and collect their dead. Like I said, either that, not 100%. Sorry, I think they either collect their dead or they go off and hide in a place that man can't reach them. That's only two things I can come up with. We could say that, yeah, the government knows and they come and pick the bodies up, but somebody would have caught that at this point. Somebody would have followed government agents because we do this as human beings. We're very curious. We would have went into the woods with the government agents and tried to see what they were doing. So, and that's my opinion. I didn't mean to make it so long winded, but that's what I think.
All right. I have another one for you. Trail cameras.
Okay.
What is your thoughts on why Bigfoot is not often captured on trail cameras?
So, from what I understand, see, my opinion on Bigfoot is somewhat different than a lot of other people's because you have collectively two parts of people who follow Bigfoot. You have the more ape related Bigfoot folks, like a good friend of mine, Amy Boo. She's more of the scientific mind of the ape like Bigfoot aspect, that humanoid aspect of Bigfoot. I lean on the other side that it's more of a supernatural sort of paranormal almost aspect in that they know these things exist. Okay. They know what man's doing in the woods. They watch them,
Right.
To think that you go into the deep part of the woods and whatever's there doesn't see you long before it knows you're there or long before you even get there is absurd. There's animals that know you're coming miles out. They know something's coming. They can smell it. I think it's the same. I think they can sense you, and I think they know your tricks. I think they know it's almost like a practical joke. And like I said, I think Bigfoot is part of that precursor group, pre-industrialization planet Earth, before your smogs, before your pollution, before your technological pollution, i.e., your different signals and radio waves that go through the air that can disturb bees and birds and things like that. I think they exist pre-industrialization. And so if you don't think they know those woods like the back of their hands, or they don't know when something's amiss, let's break it down like this. You gentlemen, do you gentlemen have pictures on your wall at your house? Like paintings, even paintings, ephemera. If I come into your house and I move your painting and it's crooked, are you going to notice it?
Well, of course.
Pretty much, yeah.
You've lived there.
Yeah.
You've lived there for so many years. You're going to know when something is amiss. It's the same basic concept. You're in their house, their home, and you're moving stuff or you're placing stuff. So yes, they're gonna see things. Now, where I am fascinated here, and there has been talk of a cryptid known as the Goat Man, some 45 minutes from me, appearing in a place up by Akron. And some folks have said they have caught it on trail cam. Now, there's things out there that I think exist that don't care. You catch me on trail cam, cool, come look for me. We're going to have a serious problem. You're going to come up missing. Something's going to happen to you. Because I don't think, I don't, if we have to say that Bigfoot exists, right? We also have to go on the fact that Dogman exists. And I say this because there's a large amount of accounts that have been spoken of in Wisconsin. Linda Godfrey, amazing author, rest in peace, great person. I have a couple of her books behind me and I've read them. And a lot of your encounters, Dogman. And we're talking about Native Americans that are talking about these things to get back into Native Americans for a second. But that's the thing. That's the thing we have to understand. So with Bigfoot, yes, it knows you're there. It knows you're there camping looking for it. there's been cases where I forget where it was at, so pardon me for this, but a woman was staying in a cabin, I believe, with her kids, and they were throwing rocks at the house to get her to leave. They were throwing rocks at the house. There was a bunch of them. They were making Bigfoot howls. Now, unless you are playing the biggest practical joke of all time and you and your buddies are going to go into the woods, I wouldn't do this, but if you and your goofball friends are going to go into the middle of the woods and harass somebody in a cabin, I don't see that. But yeah, that was a Bigfoot occurrence. They were throwing rocks at the house or at the cabin and making all this hooping and hollering and all that jazz. But I've noticed when it comes to Bigfoot, in terms of what we would consider Bigfoot, they generally like to be left alone. Don't bother them. Leave them alone. I'm one of those people.
Robert.
Leave that being alone. Yes, sir. I'm sorry.
Now, my theory on that question that he has,
Yes.
you know yourself, I don't know if you're a hunter or not, but if you put a trail cam out there and you put your corn down there, how many times is a deer out there eating, gets up and goes over and licks that camera?
Right.
Or the raccoon stands up there and puts his arms up and waves to you, does the raccoon shuffle. Okay. Foxes, cougars, they're all looking at that camera. I had talked to a lady just the other day and we were talking about this, and she asked me this question. And I said, I have an uncle who was in his 30s who went blind. Now, he would sit in the kitchen in the house and he'd say, hey, the phone's going to ring.
Yeah.
Within 3 to 4 seconds, the phone would ring. And we got, how the hell did you do that? Because I can hear it coming down the telephone lines. And I'm like, come on. He goes, yeah, I can. And every time the phone would get ready to ring, he'd say, phone's going to ring. It would ring. Now, if his sixth sense picked up like that after 30 years old, you take a monster like Bigfoot or a girl, whatever you want to call him. Now, first of all, that's his domain. Like you said, you move a picture in your house, he's going to, you're going to notice it. Now, when if animals can see that infrared light that's taking their picture and makes a sound when the batteries come on and when it loads and when it takes its picture, he can hear that. I don't care what anybody says. That's why there's not very good or very many pictures of Bigfoot. And if they are from a distance and they are blurry because the camera, he's avoiding that spot.
Yeah.
And
maybe some of them are cheeky too, and they give you a little bit. They give you a little bit so that you can run back to your friends and go, look what I caught. But it's not enough. It'll never be enough because, like you said, they know.
There's a man, he's a fire ranger in California. At the top of the tower of the fire station, you know how tall those are.
Oh, yeah.
He's got a camera facing down on a trail. And here comes Bigfoot walking up the trail. Well, it's not it's only like 1 or 2 photos, you know what I'm saying? It caught him.
Right.
But the minute all of a sudden it heard that camera click, you see it look up, and the next photo, he's gone.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
They're that quick. I believe their hearing is outstanding. Their smell like a deer. You know yourself, guys put deer urine on them so they don't smell a human. They can smell you from miles away. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah. Yes.
And I agree. That's what I'm saying about that question. I believe they see, they hear, and I believe they have day watchers that watch the woods for people who are nitwits, trying to build traps, set up cameras. They avoid that stuff. They're not a stupid animal. And I'm not an expert, but I've been around enough in the woods to know, I've had many encounters with Bigfoot since I was little. And if they don't want to be seen, they're not going to be seen. The pictures people have are great. And a lot of these pictures out there, I believe, are AI.
I think, too, if we want to go a little bit into the paranormal aspect of what we are discussing tonight, maybe they give off an aura or a frequency, because people give off frequencies. We do. Our heart beats. It's a frequency that won't allow pictures to be taken of it, crystal clear pictures, blurry camera shots, all that jazz, because they exude that frequency. Because we exude frequencies all the time. Our body has a
Right.
frequency. Music has frequencies in that, ears and everything else. So like I said, I agree with you. And honestly, I don't think there's any such thing as a dumb animal. They know how to survive. We don't. You put all these people out in the woods right now. You put a lot of these people that think animals are dumb in the woods right now. They wouldn't be able to survive in the woods overnight. I couldn't survive
No.
in the woods by myself. I know that. I am a human. I know. I don't know the outdoors all like that. Would I like to know be out in the woods more? Of course. But I like to have these experiences where I see things that can't quite comprehend. Of course. Because I love our earth is such a fascinating place and we don't care. We don't
Uh,
care. No, I shouldn't say we, but I mean humanity as a whole. They can go through their 9 to 5 and they go home and they turn the news on or they watch sports and they don't. And by all means, hey, that's your life. You live it. I'm not here to tell you what to do. But I just I find it very beautiful in a sense that when I was a kid, see, I'm in my 40s, so I'm a Gen Xer. I was born in '79. When I was a kid, you couldn't talk about this kind of stuff that I'm into. You couldn't do it. People would think you were
no.
cuckoo. They think you fell off and hit your head.
Right.
If your family saw ghosts or entities, it was kept in the family. Couldn't take that outside to nobody. And you couldn't even discuss it within your family. You couldn't say, hey, this, that, and the third. But I love the fact um, that Dave here has this podcast that I can come on and I could talk about stuff I believe in, things that people thought I'd be kooky for, years ago that I thought about, and I think that's beautiful. And then I learned stuff about my family. My grandmother saw a UFO when she was a little girl when she was crossing over a farm field. Saw one fly over, land, take off, and go again. She saw that. My mom lived in a haunted house, basically, where she was hearing things running up and down steps, doors closing, people laughing, things like that, all of that. So, I want to take a second to just be appreciative of being given the platform to discuss these kinds of things with you gentlemen. So thank you for this. I'm very grateful for that. Thank you.
You're welcome, and thank you.
Yeah, really.
Randy?
It's getting back to animals being smart. Look at the Amazon. Look at the new animals, the lizards, monkeys they're finding that we didn't even know existed.
Yes. The giant squid, for instance. We thought that was
They're,
a fairy tale. Wasn't
Yep.
real until they found one. And then they're like, oh, well, that is fascinating because see, we haven't even went to the lowest parts of the ocean. We can't. The pressure's too much.
right.
What is down there lurking? We find new things just in the forest. We find a new type of monkey. We find a new type of bug, right? And the earth itself, we start really getting into the stuff and we find out, things like Nikola Tesla or Edward Leedskalnin, the man that built Coral Castle in Florida. Kids can just
Right.
go up and like sort of tap a block of coral's 30 tons. So these kids are pushing it like it's nothing. And that to me is there's so much beauty to this planet and we don't explore enough. And like you said, oh, Deadpool says he wants to be alive when they find the Kraken, which could very well exist. The ocean is a vast place, man. It's huge.
Did you
The-
did
Go
you
ahead,
know
I'm sorry.
during 9/11 when 9/11 struck in the Gulf of in the Bay of New York, they discovered 7 different kinds of fish. 4 of them were sharks that we've never even heard about.
We keep finding things as we continue to advance because we find new ways to find things. We find new ways to explore. Um, the interesting aspect is to kind of, reel it back in a bit is that with Bigfoot or with giants, we don't find a lot of living ones. And if we do, nobody talk, if the government goes in, because the government has technology that we won't see for another 50 years. A lot of times
Right.
20 to 50 years is the cutoff point for government technology, maybe more by now. But we don't find a lot of these entities alive. You know, a lot of times people say, well, I saw it was dead. You know, the Patterson Gimlin film with the Bigfoot walking, that's been a hot button topic. A couple years back, and people said this, that, and the third about it. I'm not going to go into it, but things like that. You know, David Paulides with the 411, the missing 411, and I watched both of those, the Hunters and the one before that. And to be honest with you, there's a Bigfoot one on there. You know, thank you for that link. I appreciate you posting that. Thank you so very much. Thank you. Yeah, well, I have heard Mothman come up in, I want to say Kiev. He was there. He was in parts of Russia, and he was in Chicago. I've heard all of those places he was sighted in. Chicago, I don't remember the disaster that took place when he was sighted in Chicago, but Russia was a war aspect. Kiev another. The Mothman is a very fascinating study into cryptozoology because he seems like I don't want to necessarily say a harbinger of doom, but more like a precursor to what is going to happen. So if Mothman's in your city, maybe it's best to kind of, go away for a while, couple months, weeks, years, whatever, what have you. That's what I get out of Mothman. And I've never heard people having these close encounters in terms of like sitting down and having a conversation with it. I've always heard that they see it. Yeah, Pripyat. That was another one. Yeah, I heard he was in Pripyat before Chernobyl. That's another one. So looking at the Mothman and understanding that, okay, is this somebody that's predicting an event to take place? And he's just like kind of warning us, hey, there's something coming. You guys might want to get out of town or change your something or others. But yeah, Mothman is fascinating to me too. Another fascinating study into cryptozoology, in my personal opinion.
Dave
got quiet. Yeah, I'm trying to.
I'm just really wrapped up in listening to Robert talk here.
Thank you.
I have 100 questions, and when he's talking, dude, it's wild. I got all these questions when you're talking. I'm sitting there studying all these facts in my head, listening to you. It's a blessing to have you on here because you're making me think today.
Thank you, Tennessee, Kentucky Bigfoot, for the YouTube sub. I appreciate you. Thank you, Robert, to everybody. Thank you. Yes, sir.
I did go to the Moundsville Mound.
That's on the list. Linda Sigmund, who wrote a book about the a Mothman appearance. She talked about another mound in Marietta because she lives in Parkersburg, and Marietta is on the border of Parkersburg. When you're crossing from Marietta into West Virginia, they're darn near right next to each other. So that's one, but Moundsville, that's the one for me. That's the one I want to go to because I have been to the one in South Charleston, and I have also been at the one the Great Serpent Mound in Athens, Ohio. I loved it. It's unlike anything I've ever experienced in my life. I don't want to sound hokey when I say this, but it's magical. It's a magical feeling to be somewhere in something in a place that has existed long before you have, before your mom and dad have, before their parents have, so on and so forth. It's very, I don't want to say life-changing, but it's very much, you're going to kind of switch your ideas and you're going to want to study this kind of stuff a little bit further. But yeah, Moundsville is definitely on the list, 100%. Probably, like I said, this summer I'm going. No matter what, I'm going to head out this summer. I got to see it.
Yeah, can you see the background behind us?
Yes, I can.
Okay, that's my family property. They have 525 acres up in the Appalachian.
Ooh,
so
nice.
Yeah, and lots of dogman sightings, Bigfoot, UFOs. In 2025, I'm going to be filming a movie there, a Bigfoot movie, my first one.
Nice.
And, yeah, I'm not going to put the details out there just yet, but it'll be coming out.
I want a part in that movie.
Okay.
I want to be
right,
called short. I want to be short, fat, squat.
There you go.
I would definitely, if you would allow it, I would like to sort of check out the property at some point and have a look
Sure.
at it. Obviously, I'm a very respectful person. I don't trash anywhere. I don't leave messes. I just like to get a sense of the place that I go to.
Right.
Little side story. I went to the Trans Allegheny Lunatic Asylum. I also enjoy paranormal things too, like ghosts and things like that. And I have my theories on what they are. But I remember being there, and there's a feeling you get. It's a feeling when you walk in that door. The minute you cross that threshold, it's the same with the Mansfield Reformatory. When you cross that threshold, you know you are dealing with something next level, something that just it's suffering, it's evil, it's sadness, it's a ball that just sits there. And it's on, I believe it's on the third floor. There's a room. And when I went into the room, I automatically thought something's not right in here. There's something bad happened in this room. Not like things don't happen in those places. Bad things happen in those places. But this room was different. Like I felt it was almost what they would call soul sucking. Like you just felt so down and depressed and saddened and just something. Come to find out, there was an inmate that he was a special needs inmate, and they got tired of him acting out, and they took and put his head between the floor and a bedpost, and they started jumping on the bed until his entire skull caved in. And I knew this was a very sad place before the woman came in and told the story. I felt like that in Mansfield Reformatory too. I have these little connections with traumatic places, not in the sense of like, I'm gonna, be possessed by anything or anything of that nature, but just something about these places makes me feel a certain way. Even though going into it, you could say, well, that place is going to be like that. I get that. But when you go into the place and then you're feeling like this room is one of the worst rooms out of all the rooms besides the lobotomy room, you got to kind of ask yourself some questions. So sorry about that tangent, but I wanted to tell that story. Big fan. I think you're both muted.
Okay. I'm sorry. Robert.
You were both muted.
He
I was like,
muted
I think he's asking a question.
He muted us out.
Okay.
I said I was enjoying it.
All right. I'm going to step out for a quick moment, but I'll be right back. Okay.
Okay.
You guys go ahead and talk.
We're going to. Anyways, Robert.
Yes, sir.
I love Dave. I have WROK Radio FM here in Las Vegas.
That's
do a
awesome.
podcast show. Awesome. I'm sponsoring the show today, but I also have a podcast show. Love to have you on there sometime.
Thank you.
Get in touch with me through Dave. Getting back to your alien thing, you are into the aliens and
yes, sir.
the
yes,
lizard
sir.
type people and stuff like that. All right,
reptilians, all of them. Yep. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Vegas, Las Vegas, we have so many alien sightings.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen about 4 or 5 months ago where the aliens landed on top of this house, jumped off. The cameras caught in the Las Vegas Police Department chased the aliens.
Sounds like teenage aliens. That's what it sounds like to me. Like a couple teenagers
Look it up.
in the audio.
Look it
I
up.
definitely will do that. I'll make a bookmark of it right now.
Police chase aliens in Las Vegas.
I gotta say
the cops say, and the cops camera sees this thing going across the sky. The cop goes, "If it comes back, don't call us."
It's funny because that is the most like American headline in a news thing that I will ever read because it just sounds like us, especially in Las Vegas. 100%. Yeah, that's another thing. I think there are aliens, much like we talked about Bigfoot, that like to play practical jokes. I think it's very much similar. I think that I've always believed in aliens. Now, obviously, I grew up watching The Outer Limits, The Twilight Zone, shows like that. So, like, I know they're not these big, hokey man in a suit type things. Or maybe they are. And maybe that was just the government's way of ushering it into us. Like, yeah, they exist, but we're going to make it a joke, because that's what you do. You put in things subtly as jokes for two reasons. One, it's easier to declassify, right? And two, it's
Right.
easier to make fun of people who believe in it. So they never have to worry about, okay, you saw an alien. Oh, yeah, which one was it? The little green men on the episode of The Twilight Zone? You're correlating. The people know they're correlating. Boom, you get made fun of. You know, that's how things like that work.
Did you also hear about the Miami mall?
That one
That the
was,
portal opened up. That all those
that wasn't
people said what they saw.
that wasn't the only mall. From what I heard, there was another mall too where that exact thing happened. Same thing. Like, it's, I don't, aliens are probably like are probably up there for me in terms of like some of my favorite things to talk about. I saw an actual UFO. This was back during the COVID year. I was outside on my back porch and I was looking up, and I don't know if you gentlemen have ever seen Flight of the Navigator. It's an older Disney movie. The
Yeah.
craft looked like a sunflower seed. I saw a silver craft that looked like a sunflower seed. And I watched it for a minute, and it moved about that much, but in the sky, obviously it's a longer distance. I'm just using measurement of my fingers. And then it reappeared. And I said, that's weird. Okay, that's different. 2 weeks later, I saw the exact same thing. Exact same thing. I was asked by somebody if I'd ever gone regressive hypnosis, if I lost chunks of time. Because a lot of times when you see a lot of people that have UFO sightings, they tend to lose blocks of time. None of that happened. I didn't have any lossage of time, but the fact that it happened in the same spot 2 weeks later,
Right.
to this day, like, and my thing is, what set of circumstances put me in that spot on that same day? Like, my brain knew, go back out there, sit down, you're going to see it again. First time,
Right.
coincidence. All right. First time, hey, it's a nice day outside. I can't go anywhere. Everything's locked down. I'm going to go sit outside on my back porch and just look up at the sky for a while, because I'd like to do that. But to see it that second week, still to this day, I can't explain it. And I've had people say, well, you always get your weather balloon, folks. You know, it was a weather balloon. I know, because I would get the first time. I would get, okay, maybe it was something different. Maybe it was just it was this, that, and the third. When I saw it that second week, I was floored. I went in and I was just like, I kind of just stopped and stared at the wall for a minute and thought, wow, I saw that 2 weeks ago, and here I am seeing it again.
Here I live here in Las Vegas, of course.
Mhm.
I live 2 miles from Nellis Air Force Base.
Yep.
You ever seen that triangle flying saucer? It looks
Yes.
black.
Yes.
It's trying to fly. It's got the 4 lights on the back.
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's parked right here.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. It takes off at night. It flies. You can't hear it. You can see it, but it can also hologram itself 10 to 15 times.
See, that's something to me that seems more government than alien. Like,
It
somehow
also,
we have...
it also changes its form to a tic tac.
See, that kind of stuff sounds very government to me. Like, because we have reversed engineered a lot of things. If we go back to the Majestic 12 and we go back to Eisenhower, supposedly Eisenhower made a deal with gray aliens that they could kidnap or abduct, I should say, abduct human beings, right, for experiments and things of that nature, to take them back. And then you got to bring them back, though, in exchange for technological advancements from different accounts that I've read regarding Eisenhower. And then the Majestic 12 was just Truman and them sort of building upon further relationships with extraterrestrial species, whether it be Greys, reptilians, Zetans, whatever, what have you. supposedly that aspect. So that to me, and Deadpool is part of he's part of this Uncanny Earth. He's part of the podcast that we're on, and we'd love to have you two gentlemen on at some point.
Love to.
He speculates that they just had released it, like he said, for all the evil karma, and it was all real and true. But they said it was a conspiracy because the Majestic 12. I love when people say, "Well, it was debunked. It's not real." But then you have different aspects of that ideology that exist. So how can, and I'm the first person to say I don't trust the government as far as I can throw the government, not near one of them. I don't trust a politician as far as I can throw one. And to think that they wouldn't hide stuff from us, especially in regards to something, because this is something I have discussed with my co-hosts and things. If the government would come out tomorrow and say aliens existed, because if you read that report that came out in I want to say 2021, 2022, half of it was redacted. You didn't get anything out of that other than, yeah, we've seen UAPs. What does that mean?
Exactly.
But further examination, if the government would come out tomorrow and say, yes, aliens are real, it's going to cause a problem because people are going to start saying, well, what else have you lied to us about? What are you lying to us about now? So they give us what I like to call bread and circuses. They give us the latest sports thing, latest Hollywood thing. And I don't get into politics. I have my own views and things. I keep that to myself. But I think that the government has known about these entities, these beings, for a very long time, a very, very long time. And they're not going to tell us. Why would you? Why would you tell regular Joe Schmo about the technological workings that we are gaining off of these entities? It's just things of that nature. Yeah, I think and you're right in a sense. Tennessee says if we met ETs or Bigfoots, we'd find out the truth of who we are, and I agree. There's part of us that is what I like to call we have a part of the divine. I believe all of us have it, the divine spark, as it were. Anyways, that's for something else. But please go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Tracy Jones, who was on here earlier. I don't know if she's still out here or not.
Okay.
Hello, Tracy, if you're still out here. Her and another woman, Laura. I have these dreams of disasters,
mm-hmm.
and they say I've got a power which they call me a dream walker. So I dream and I see these disasters. I dreamt about the boat hitting the bridge 2 to 3 weeks before it happened. I dreamt of a friend of mine who was a Bigfoot hunter, what was going to happen to him and his friends if they went in the woods. I mean, right down to the detail of what they were wearing in this dream, from the coats and everything. I've had all these dream stuff, but I keep having a dream that the United States is going to pull off a UFO attack and try to make us believe that we're under attack from the UFOs, and these are going to be our ships doing this. Call it what it's worth, but when I see these ships, these flying saucers over at Nellis Air Force Base at 3-4 o'clock in the morning, these guys are zipping out of here like shoo, 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 shoo. I mean, I can hear their engines rev at 4 in the morning. And you go out at night and you see strange things in the air that they're chasing. All right. Now, I've seen the triangle. I've seen that triangle turn into a tic-tac.
Right.
I've seen, and I've asked questions about it. I understand it's not even driven by a man. It's done like a drone. It can go 8,600 miles an hour. It can take maneuvers that we can't. Is this what we're seeing? Are they preparing us for this quote-unquote attack to keep us under their spell? We got to do this. We got to do that. I see this disaster coming. But when you see stuff like this sitting on the airbase, we didn't get that knowledge we got that knowledge from somewhere. We just didn't go to bed one night and wake up and say, I'm going to build a ship that goes 8,600 miles an hour, can't be detected. It can, hologram itself. We're getting that technology from somewhere. You know what I'm saying? We've got Hitler had the very first flying saucer during World War II.
I was just about to say
Locked
that. I
up
was
the
just
bell.
about to say the Foo Fighters. I was also going to say the Foo Fighters that were in World War II that a lot of people just sometimes forget that conversation. But understandably, um, Hitler was involved with the Thule Society, even though he says he wasn't. In his beginning, he was into that. They said he had the spear of destiny that had pierced the side of Christ himself, that he was able to control all this, that, and the third. He disassociated himself with those people when he rose in ranks. His little goofball administrators, Goebbels and all them, they still believed in it. But for the most part, he tried to disavow it. But the interesting point of that is when the Nazis were defeated, they made Operation Paperclip. And this is another reason I will never trust the government. They brought over literal Nazis over from Germany, Nazis that should have been hung until dead, and let them work in our country. The main man, Werner
they're
von Braun.
scientists too. And they're scientists.
Werner von Braun, the V2 rocket man. He was instrumental in that. And from what I have studied and read, it was a mercury-based fuel. It was mercury that was fueling these crafts. Because the way mercury, if you heat mercury up, it rises. We have thermometers. We know how that works. So it rises. Yeah. Yep. Dr. Werner von Braun, Deadpool, correct. And so when you have that and you bring that over here, and let's jump into something else. One of my personal heroes, Nikola Tesla. I'm a big fan of Nikola Tesla.
There we go.
A good man. He knew these secrets, these frequencies, the way things worked. He was able to walk underneath his own electricity and not get killed, not die. You see what I'm saying? So it's like you steal his ideas. You've already stolen, or I shouldn't say stolen. You basically let Nazis in under the auspices of, hey, give us this stuff and we'll let you live. And you combine the two, and you have something very, very powerful. You have a way to understand the gravitational forces, because gravity is a funny thing. If you take two magnets and suspend them between each other, you can basically create an anti-gravity sort of mechanism and be able to move and do all this, that, and the third in there, which makes sense because push and pull dynamics. So when they did this, they were able to create these UFOs and these, because I'm a person, I don't like to say everything is aliens. I don't care for it. I think it destroys who we are as people. Like we're just a bunch of goofs that can't do things. I say in a mob form, of course we're a bunch of goofs. But when you get us in single-minded brain mode where we're doing advanced geometry, advanced mathematics, I love math. Math fascinates me to no end. So the ideas of trigonometry and geometry and the way things are created, the way things move, the way things can become, to me, it's a no-brainer when you have a society that is highly based on the ideas of science, like Nazi Germany was. They were just gung-ho about rockets and everything else. Then you have the United States, who was in the same boat. And you grab them up, and then we forget the other player in this game. Russia grabbed up the other ones. So while the U.S. got some from the West, Russia got some from the East. However, as we see with Chernobyl and the RBMK reactor, they decided to do things that weren't conducive to a better environment. They just wanted to beat the Americans, hence the Cold War. It was just all about who was better. But when you sit back and read these accounts of ships, of UFOs, of the ones that go underwater, the ones that go supposedly at Loch Ness, where the Loch Ness Monster is, there is a ship that goes there and goes under the water, and supposedly there's a base under there and everything else. And I know people like to say, oh, you sound mad or you sound crazy. Why do I sound crazy when we have things like the Nazca lines? What were those built for? How would you be able to go up that? You'd have to go up in the air to look down to see these things. When you have things like Edward Leedscouten, that made Coral Castle. When you have Nikola Tesla that was able to essentially make electricity the coolest thing on the planet. Then you have chumps like Edison and JP Morgan Chase who completely destroyed his ideas, but then the government came and took those ideas, and we see some of that. You see some of those ramifications existing today.
Well, Tesla had a machine that he could shake a building, make it like an earthquake, shake a block.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, because frequencies, resonances, frequencies, yes.
Do you ever watch Skinwalker Ranch?
I've watched a couple episodes. It's a little, how do I put this? I look at it sometimes it's a little bit too sensationalized for my tastes. But I have read the accounts of Skinwalker Ranch. Like I have read all the accounts from when it was originally a thing up until what was his name? He was like a very rich dude that bought it and closed it off. Like
he's right here in Vegas. He owns it. He owns the airlines and stuff up where he does planes. Somebody help me with this. Anyways, long story short, I'm a member of the Skinwalker Ranch, and I watch their monitors.
Oh,
and
nice.
I watch it on a 70-inch screen, not my laptop or my phone, and I monitor six cameras. Now I have seen the very first night I was on. I got my card and I got my pass to watch these monitors and stuff like that. I saw a UFO come over the mesa out of nowhere, a porthole open up. I mean, a ball of light. It flies into the light and the light disappears. I said to my wife, I go, did you just see that? And she goes, can you rewind it? Well, I can because I can go backwards and forwards. And we have to write down, it was on camera 2, what time it was. I mean, it was at 11:02 a.m., 56 seconds. We have to write all that stuff and we have to report it. And there's people all over the world, Canada, England, watching these cameras too. Well, I have seen that. Now, I've also seen UFOs fly into the mesa, right straight into the rock, and come out the other side. Come out from behind it. I'm thinking it's got to be something there. Only for the fact is, no one's watching these cameras. No one's no one's out there producing a movie. If you go to Skinwalker Ranch, they have a 1.6 megahertz constantly playing there. That's what we, airwave that we do back and forth to space with an astronaut, the 1.6. Sometimes at 1.6, when something happens on that ranch, it'll jump up to 4.2, 5.6. Their stuff will break down. There's a lot of things that happen out there. If you're into it like I am with the UFOs and stuff, I'm telling you, pay the $10, get on the subscription so you can watch those cameras. And I've seen some really weird stuff. I've seen there's ghosts in there. I've seen doors open and close, and seen Bigfoot walk behind the back of a building. And when he came off from behind the building, you ever seen Predator? How he digitizes?
Yes.
I can't see it. You can see that happening as this Bigfoot's walking out behind the building and goes zip and disappears.
Well,
people say, "Oh, that door closed because of the wind." Well, I'm looking at leaves. There's no windows, and there's leaves on the floor. The door opens up, shuts. You can hear like someone's checking the door. Now, if there was a wind, it doesn't check the door, and leaves would be blowing around if it was blowing that hard to open and close the door.
Brandon Fugel. That's the name I was looking for. Thank you.
Brandon Fugel's a friend of mine.
Thank you, Tracy.
Matter of fact, him and the team are going to do a podcast show with me.
Ooh. Yeah, I always wanted to talk to that dude because I'd like to pick his brain on that place just for certain things that I don't think people ask of that place. And I'm just kind of curious. I
have his personal cell phone number. I will ask him if it's all right for me to give it to you.
Oh,
and
please.
He's willing to talk to you. I'm the only podcast show that they're going to allow to do right now. They're doing the movie right, shooting the episodes, but I got him and the team coming on, and they've got a new show now called Beyond Skinwalker Ranch.
I've heard of that too.
Well, they're going to Colorado, and they're finding these farms that have the cows that are no blood, all cut up, no tracks, and they truly believe that these are UFOs taking the organs out of these cows and just dropping them off. And this one home in Colorado, it's a 5-mile straight And on these people's farm, there's a bridge. 2 out of every 6 to 7 cars crash going over that bridge. It's a straightaway. The cars will pick up, turn over, crash. They went there. There's a 1.6 megahertz playing. All of a sudden, they took, that thing that Tesla has, for the electricity.
Yes.
Okay. They took one underneath the bridge and it lit it up by itself.
The Tesla coils. Are you talking about the Tesla coil?
Yeah, the Tesla coil lit up. And I guess
Yep.
it went up to like 7.8
Yeah.
megahertz. Now, where's that energy coming from? They have a lot of UFO sightings in these, and that's where they're going.
Yeah.
People say, Skinwalker Ranch is a bunch of shit. Well, you know something? I'm watching these cameras. Maybe they, add stuff to it, because it's TV. But when you're actually watching it live and you see stuff happening that there's nobody out there, UFOs flying in and out, you'll see like balls of light. 2 or 3 will come together, and then one to the left, one to the right, or one goes straight up, and they're zigzagging. Okay, you can't. I guess you could, but why would they do that at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning?
I mean, we always have to. I think it's always a good rule of thumb to say, okay, maybe they are doing that. I mean, I think it's healthy. I think it's good for our brains, because when we start accepting everything as being supernatural, we're not giving ourselves the logic needed to see the things that are actually supernatural. We're just going along with the flow. I remember being in there's a place in West Virginia. It used to be a hostel. It's kind of like, the best way I can describe it is every floor had tenants, and you all lived together in the same building, and they had a common washroom. They had a common where you would cook. I remember being there, and I'm a person who was very skeptical when it comes to ghosts. There's too much out there where they can fake it, or they say it's ghosts and it really isn't a ghost, it's something else. I was in this building, and I was there with Les Odell, and I was there with a couple other people that can verify what I'm saying. And I remember looking over at the pool table and a black orb, and the black orb was about as big as a basketball, and it went from a pole, or from the pool table to the pole, and I knew it was a black mass of something because I couldn't see through it. Everything else I could see through. You look into darkness a lot of times, as long as there's light, you can see the parts of the darkness. You can see the different stages of darkness that are there, up and down, this, that, and the third. I couldn't see it. I couldn't see through it. I watched it move. And then our buddy Les, he has a what they would call, it's a spirit box, and it runs through frequencies. And it caught, I kid you not, clear as day. He said, how many people are in this room? And it said 5. And there was 5 of us. Then he did the dowsing rod technique. And he said, well, who were you here to see? And it landed on me. I'm not going to lie to you, I was freaked out. There's parts of me, I was like, oh, I'm a little freaked out now. Okay, well, all right. I'm a little freaked out. And it's interesting to see Charles, and I want to touch on this real quick. Maryland and West Virginia. West Virginia was basically a no-go state for the Native Americans in terms of sleeping there or living there. They would only pass through there to hunt, to fish, do things like that. They would never stay. Supposedly what had happened is, in one of the accounts, their ancestors fought a race of giants, killed the giants. The giants in turn cursed the land so that the land could never be dwelt in. Now, obviously, people dwell in West Virginia all the time. People live there. But to me, to see that, to read that, and then to understand the experiences that happen in that vicinity, because West Virginia is a hotbed. It is a hotbed of so many things, because a lot of my relatives, they came from different parts of Europe and Germany and places like that, settled in West Virginia. And you have a lot of that Appalachian magic, because a lot of my ancestors were granny witch types. So they brought their beliefs, their ideas, their thoughts to the New World, to live, to survive. And they employed some of that into living here. And so the interesting part about West Virginia is it holds a sense of magic. I go there frequently, and I love it. It's a very magical place. I've been to very few places that are as magical as that state is. Sedona is another one that is on the list to go to in Arizona. But yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited. I'm very excited to do more. As much as I love to research, as much as I love to study and learn, I want to go out and do things. I just okay. I will be
Randy,
thank you,
you're
Tracy. I
muted.
appreciate that. You're muted. He's muted again.
I'm sorry. My dog was barking. I muted out. Sedonia's got a ranch called the Barkley Ranch that has the same thing that Skinwalker Ranch has. Now they've got UFOs. The lady who lived there, she was out taking pictures of an orb of some sort, and a porthole opened up, and it was all blue sky. She's got it on film, and you see this thing looking through it, looking into our realm. I mean, there's a lot of crazy stuff. She's got Bigfoot there. People lose time and space. There was a man who actually went to take a pee over by the water tower. They said he stood there for 30 minutes, and they kept yelling his name. He goes, "I've only been here 2 minutes, less than 2 minutes." But he said he was in a porthole of some sort where it was beautiful skies and trees, and all they see is him taking a pee at this water tower. You know, these portholes with aliens and portholes with Bigfoot and stuff like that. I guess unless you experience that, you know, people's minds are weak. They want to believe what they want to believe. But Sedonia, they got a ranch where you can go on a tour. They go out with night vision at night, and you will see things. I do it here in Vegas. You go and look through the night vision. You'll see things moving around that you don't see with the naked eye. I mean, you'll see ships, you know, things that go straight and all of a sudden makes a quick, you know, or makes like a letter Z, like Zorro, or goes to the left and all stops and banks. You'll see 3 or 4 things flying. You know, a lot of them, you know, are airplanes or they're what do you call them? Things we got in space flying on the
Satellites?
Brain fire working. Satellites. Because satellites usually travel in a line 4, 5, 6 at a time. But if you go out at night with night vision and look into the sky, you'll see everywhere. You'll see the stuff moving around. That's just not normal.
Well,
if you ever
Sedonia.
come to Vegas, I will take you to a place called Hollywood, where there's more stuff that you'll see because you're away from the city. You're at one of the highest points in Las Vegas. And my wife takes pictures during the day. You know, her camera's a 5-star burst. Number 3, you'll see a spaceship. 4 and 5, it's not there. You know?
Yeah.
And at night,
frequencies.
You see stuff flying around all the time.
Frequencies are a very interesting thing, and the more you study them, the more you realize that they are used to enhance or destroy. You know, music was set on a certain frequency. Mozart, Beethoven, all of them had a certain musical frequency, and that's good for your brain. I love classical music personally. I highly enjoy it. I think it's fantastic. But once you hit a certain era, the music frequency changed, which causes a more rambunctious, a more violent, a more tendencies for people to act a certain way.
Pump into it. You're right.
Yeah, I mean, and if we think about it, it makes sense. You know, emotion is very much, and I thank you for that, Tracy. I'll definitely be on my P's and Q's in that regard because, hey, I appreciate it. Yeah, so that frequency change, and I wanted to touch on that because you talked about something earlier, and I want to kind of bring it back because I wanted to say something here. Supposedly, if you can find the right frequency of your body and have an emitter that can put out that frequency, you could walk through your own walls because it's the reshaping of the molecules in your body to make them smaller than the molecules that make up your walls, whether it be drywall, whether it be, you know, wood beams, whatever. So you said the ship went in the mountain and came out the other side. In order for that to happen, the ship would have to essentially make itself molecule-wise smaller than those other molecules, and then, of course, it would just pass right through. That's theory. That's all a
Right.
theoretical thing. That's not even, I can't prove that to you right now. If I get up and try to walk to the door, I'll bust my forehead open. Then we're all going to have a hilarious chuckle. But in terms of being able to do that, that's a scientific level most human beings don't even truly understand. The rearranging of
Right.
molecules is something you would have to have a frequency to use. You would have to have something that would emit that frequency enough from every follicle of your head down to every part of your nail beds of your feet and everything in between that in order to pass through a door, a wall, anything. We can pass through if there's a waterfall, we can pass through it because water, we can go right through it. Doors and things, mountains, rocks, that ship has to do something in order to change its frequency to where it's
Right.
vibrating in a different resonance to pass through it. So, and I've heard a couple stories of UFOs and things like that passing through mountains, just like that, going into it, like not opening, nothing opening, no, 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 no,
Don't worry, Robert. We do that too.
Trick photography.
okay. Yeah, something like that. No, like with no resonance of how to do it. So I don't know that. I think it's fascinating. I mean, and like Deadpool said, being able to change molecular structure through frequency.
Guys,
Robert,
how
I
you
do
work.
Robert, I do magic. All right,
Okay.
I used to do stage magic, and I do a lot of close-up
Nice.
magic.
Nice.
And forcing a card on somebody is easy for a magician. I can hand you the 3 of clubs all day long. No matter what card you
right.
pick, I'm gonna give you the 3 of clubs.
Right.
But
right.
I've sat in my kitchen, and I've been so wound up in something that's happened. The magnets on your refrigerator, the ABCs,
Yeah.
that people put on their refrigerator for kids. I've sat in the kitchen a couple times, and I'm just staring at that, and I'm just like, oh, I'm just so mad. But it's inside me. I made magnets fall off of the refrigerator. I made a glass ashtray one time come across a table because someone was going off on my sister. The ashtray was big, round, glass, thick, smoke, about a half-inch thick.
Yeah.
It comes sliding across the table to my hand. When I picked it up, it shattered like dust. Now, my sister goes, I think you're possessed. Her husband she was married to ran out the door. He's like, I'm not going back in that house. Blah, blah, blah,
No.
Can I do that all the time? No, but I feel if you change like you said, frequencies in your body, you can do things. When you watch Star Wars with Luke Skywalker, the Jedi, and he puts his hand out and his lightsaber comes flying to him. I take that as for real. Not that everybody, but I feel people do that. It's in your mind, it's in the energy, and the frequencies you put it on your body. And it's exactly when you're talking about spaceships flying through mountains, going into water,
Yes.
I think it all works out. That's my version of this. I may be wrong. If I'm wrong, please tell me.
Right. No, and that's the thing. Earlier you were talking about, I forget who it was, but you said that there was a 30-year-old man who was blind, right? And he could hear the telephone
was
ringing
my uncle,
from
yes.
it coming down. I have done this. I have been able to say that there is a phone call that's coming. My brain, it's not something I'd yell out, but I could sense it. I'm like, the phone's about to ring, and it would ring. Or one of my favorites is I know what the song they're about to play. I know what they're about to say next. I know, what number this is going to be. It hasn't worked for the lottery yet, but we got the fingers crossed just in case. But it's crazy. It's like a premonition of things to come, but it's so baseline. Like I can't do anything with it. I can't be like, yeah, phone's about to ring. Give me $1 million for it. No, I just know.
Right.
I like whenever I used to, I was a big fan of calling radio stations and winning stuff when I was younger. I loved doing it. I just loved doing it. I was a kid in the 90s. That's what you call radio stations to win stuff. I would always know when I was going to win.
I know.
I knew when I was going to win. I knew it. I knew it the minute they picked up the phone. Your caller so and so. I knew I was going to win. Couldn't tell you how, but I knew I was going to win. Knew it every single time.
And that's the thing. Everybody has a gift. Like Tracy says, everybody has a gift to some degree.
Yes.
And I've had these gifts since I was a kid, and now that I'm 62 years old, these gifts are stronger. Like I said, I got where I do magic tricks now. And I say, here, you take the deck and pick a card, put it back in the box, and I'll tell you what it is. You know?
Hey, somebody from
England.
England. Nice. Sorry, I get excited when I see people from other countries. That's really cool, Dave. You got somebody from England in here.
Hello, England.
I did not mean to interrupt you, so please, I hope I did not offend. I did not mean to interrupt you.
But everybody has, like Tracy said, everybody has a gift. But
Yeah.
like you said, I truly believe everything works on a frequency. And
Yes.
like you said, if you got the right frequency, you could walk through a wall.
Yeah. Yes.
You know?
You could rearrange your molecules. Yes.
And I truly believe that's true.
And I'm a big person. I like to work out. I enjoy lifting weights. I highly enjoy lifting weights. It's one of my favorite things to do. Just because I believe that being healthy helps aid your intelligence. Like
Right.
just like reading books helps aid your intelligence. I don't watch TV. Like, I know that sounds crazy, but I don't watch any form of television. So when you talk about Skinwalker Ranch, I've only seen parts and pieces. I don't watch television. I do a lot of reading, and I enjoy playing video games and stuff like that. But I don't want to watch television. You know what I mean? Like, I want to read about stuff, and I want to go have experiences with my life. And I think a lot of times, not with all television, mind you, because there was a period of time when I loved watching Ancient Aliens. I just loved it. Like right when it first came out, those 2010 years, some of my favorite years of that and Ghost Adventures. I know people have, opinions on that, whatever. I don't, but man, I absolutely loved it. And I learned a lot. That was 2010 for me was an awakening of sorts in my brain. I had always been fascinated with aliens, UFOs, science fiction. I grew up loving science fiction. I've read everything from Asimov and Silverberg, all of that. But it wasn't until 2010 when something clicked. And it was from watching those shows. I mean, like, I did not know any of this. So I remember going out and buying all the a couple of the Zachariah Sitchin books. I bought the 12th Planet. And then I went out and bought the others. And now I have the whole set. And it just went from there and built and built and built and built and built. And, here I am today, just sitting here and having this conversation with you guys because I love doing this. And I love learning. I love learning
for hours about this stuff.
Yeah. I used to listen to Art Bell. I still do because it's on YouTube. So I'll fire up Art Bell and go to sleep to it. Because that is a big part of my inspiration is from Art Bell. I used to listen to him back in the day when he was still with us. And I loved it. I'm like, oh my goodness, you have a whole show talking about things we couldn't talk about when I was a kid. And you're actually talking about it. And I absolutely love it. So for me, like that is a 100% inspiration of a person to me. I loved his show. I listened to Coast to Coast. I listened to Dark Matter. He had Richard C. Hoagland on. I'm a big fan of the concept of Mars being once livable. I have Mission to Mars and behind me. I have a lot of books behind me, as you guys can tell.
I see that.
A lot of different stuff back there. I got more books upstairs. I'm very much a hoarder of books. Like, I like to have knowledge readily available because the internet has since censored a lot of things that I can't find. I don't know if you gentlemen are the same way, but like 5-10 years ago, there's certain things I could find that I can't find anymore. And this was something that was broad range of material on the internet, and they've since censored it so much that I can't find the things I used to be able to find. And I've been asking people, like, am I the only person who feels like I'm not finding what I used to be able to find on the internet? And I've talked to a bunch of my friends, and they're like, no, you are not wrong. They have been removing things from the internet for so long.
Yes. I everything I do is on Firefox. If you go to Google and stuff, I mean, everything right now is being what they want you to see. My phone, since I had T-Mobile, they told me I could not use Firefox as a search engine anymore. And I says, who are you to tell me I can't use Firefox? Because see, Firefox stops all the trackings. You can set up so you can track. Because if you look up boxes of candy, all of a sudden it shows up on Facebook. Hey, look at the candy you can buy,
Or it shows up on your phone.
Or it shows up on your phone.
Yeah.
And so I got rid of them. But there's a lot of stuff on like DuckDuckGo you can go find that's not been altered and tampered. If you go on Firefox and you go up Google Map and you look down at Los Angeles, if you look in their bay, you'll see buildings out in the water about 5 miles from the shore. Round buildings, round, square, like an underground city. Now Google is fighting. The government's telling Google to take it down. Well, Google, it's still there, but you have to go see it like on Firefox. You know?
And Tennessee is right. Sorry, Tennessee is right. The internet's becoming an echo chamber. I agree with you.
Yeah.
Nope, everybody's afraid to have a different opinion.
I'm a big guy on these, and I'll tell you what I know has been taken down is the Walmart FEMA death camps, where 298 Walmarts have closed down for no reason at all. Military, they're always next to a Home Depot or a Lowe's. There's tunnels underneath there. Coffin liners are being put outside as far as the eye can see. Now, it started off with 10, 15 conspiracy theories. Jesse the Body Ventura, he moved to Mexico. He's out there now. They're banning him from coming to the United States. He sneaks in and out. But at one time, within about 3 months ago, there was over 100,000 of people videotaping these Walmarts. Now you go on there, you're lucky you can find one.
Yeah.
They take this stuff because they don't want us to be educated.
But I think also when it comes to stuff like that, I think a lot of that too is, how do I put this? It's like the government is pranking us. It's like, yeah, let's create these crazies who will buy into this hook, line, and sinker from Jump Street. Do it. They do that, and then always watch the other hand. You're a magician, you know sleight of hand.
Right. Sleight of hand.
They want you to be afraid. So, yeah, they're going to show all this stuff. They're going to do it, and if you don't think the government, I'm not saying you personally, mind you. I'm saying if you don't think the government has the money to do this, they'll just invade somewhere and do it again. But I think a lot of these things that we see, all they're doing is just smoke and mirrors. Like, yeah, look, we got you. Meanwhile, they're in the Middle East and they done found something that changes our whole history. It changes our whole written history from jump. It changes everything. It changes the whole narrative of who we are as people, as human beings, as what we could become. But they'll do these little things, little small things, because we have to remember Hollywood and the movies that they make. If you don't think that they can create sets that equal that or better, you're insane. Because who do you think owns Hollywood?
That's what I was telling you earlier about the dream, the government making up this UFO thing, like Independence Day happening, and it's our ships doing it, to keep us underhand. Hey, you got to do what we got to say, we got these aliens coming, whatever it may be. I have getting back to the Walmart thing, I've got a Walmart right next to Nellis Air Force Base. It was the highest money making of all the United States Walmarts. They closed because they said a plumbing problem. I'm a plumber. My family's in the plumbing. There's nothing you can't fix in a store or anywhere. So they closed down. My wife and I drove over there at 3 a.m. because we're seeing all this stuff. There are military police. There are security guards. There are ambulances, and it's all got wire all the way up around it, like a prison. They don't want, if I put that on there, I'll probably knock on my door today. I don't care. But you see what you see. I share that information with people. That's what I love about you here today, sharing this information, educating all these people out here on stuff that they wouldn't know or they don't understand. And believe me, it's been a blessing talking to you today.
Thank you. The one thing about me is I'm going to put it out there. I don't care what government agency wants to do something. I got a personal belief in God, and you ain't touching me until it's my time to go. And if it's my time to go, it's my time to go. It's been that time. But I ain't afraid of you. I'm not afraid of these big evil folks because I know. Like, I know where I come from. I know who I am. I know the foundation I was built on. I'm not afraid of all that. I'm going to keep working hard. I'm going to keep making sure everybody in my circle is taken care of. My most important goal when I do these shows, when I do these presentations, is getting my name out there because at the end of the day, I would love to make a career out of this. I enjoy it. I love talking to people. I love
Right.
going out and meeting new people. Even if I don't agree with what you're saying, I still want to talk to you because maybe you might give me a little kernel of information that, okay, this changes something
Yeah,
I didn't know before. Because we're all going to have differences
exactly.
of opinion, and I love it. Iron sharpens iron at the end of the day. The end of the
That's
day,
right.
gentlemen like yourselves giving me new thoughts, like the whole thing about the Las Vegas thing. I'm gonna look that up as soon as we're done here because I need to know about this. Um, I just love conversating with people. I love having these conversations um, because if we don't, we're not going to advance as people. As people, because
Right.
I want to know about experiences. I want to go to more haunted locations. I want to go to places like Skinwalker Ranch or places like Sedonia, not as a person who's looking to be famous, but somebody that wants answers to life, to the beauty of life, to why we're here, what are we doing, what else is out there, what kind of beauty is out there, what kind of danger is out there, and that's the thing. Just be smart about what you do. Don't be a doofus. I mean, that's my opinion.
During the
I've put that on a shirt.
during the coronavirus, my wife and I, went up to the Red Rock Canyon, and we were taking
yeah.
pictures of the canyon.
Yeah.
Dinosaur fossils and all this stuff.
Yes.
So she takes her camera and she snaps a picture, and we're not realizing, but there's this big cloud about two sizes of two football fields, and we take the picture, but the cloud caught our attention because it was shimmering. And you know how clouds will break up when they move, and
Yeah, of course.
one piece. This thing didn't do this. So all day long, this cloud was all over Vegas, because we go shopping and traveling and taking pictures. I went from north to south, east to west. We're all over. So this cloud is everywhere, and still it hasn't broken up. Well, we get home and look at the pictures. When it's over Red Rock Canyon, there's a beam of light coming down, bouncing, going right into one of the canyon mountains. And she goes, "What is that?" Well, she puts it up on Facebook. They take it down. So she's, she put it up on YouTube. I'll find it if you want to see it. But right after that, I'm sitting home. It's 115 degrees outside. All of a sudden, all the power goes off. Now my house is going to get hot quick. So I go to my phone and I'm going to call the electric company to see what the deal is. My phones don't work. I'm like, nope, my phone's not hooked to nothing. It's on its own battery.
Yeah.
So I go outside to see if I can get a signal. I look up, and that damn cloud is over this whole side of Las Vegas. We have no power. We have no cell phones. As soon as that cloud moves away, and it moved away slowly, not fast.
Right.
Power came back on. The phones came back on.
Yeah.
The first time it happened for 6 minutes. And I got this log. The second time it happened for 21 and a half minutes. The third time was off for an hour and 20 minutes.
Oh.
I called the phone company when I said, "Hey, why is my phone going?" Well, we have no saying there's an interruption. I called the electric company. We don't know what happened. So now all my neighbors were all outside saying, a little group meeting. Now all of a sudden we've got police department going through our where we all live, because I live in a gated community. You have to get in your houses, none of this outdoor shit at night, And I'm like, it's awful strange. So I called the electric company. I said, "Listen, you charge me all kinds of money for electricity. I should never be out of power." And the lady says to me, I said, "My cell phone went off." She says, "Well, why your cell phone went off?" She goes, "Can you hang on a minute?" 20 minutes later, she goes, "Well, see, if the electricity goes off, the towers go off." I go, "No, the towers are satellited." She goes, "Well, that's what they told us to tell you." So I called T-Mobile. Now I've got to find out. I called T-Mobile. I said, "If your tower goes off, is it powered?" He goes, "No, it's done by satellite." I said, "Well, electric company." Goes, "Somebody's lying to somebody." Shortly after that, my internet was turned off. Everything was turned off in my house. My Alexis wouldn't work. I had to go change the whole service, which I did. And now, the thing is, today, nobody can explain why that cloud do it. I'm showing my I go, look at this cloud. This is the same one my wife and I saw.
Right.
Nobody had cell phone, nobody had electricity. So look at that government cover up right there.
I would definitely do that.
I mean, it's crazy.
It is. It is.
Dave, I'm sorry I'm taking up all your question time.
All right, we're gonna go to a commercial. When we come back, we're gonna do that giveaway, and then we'll talk to Robert if he has time to stick around for a little longer.
I do.
So,
I do.
Thank you, Robert.
You're welcome.
All right, and we're back. Robert,
Hey,
I want to get your. Yeah, go ahead.
Real quick, Dave. Anybody wants to enter the contest today? If you type in hashtag Bigfoot, it will put you up on a screen. Right now, we've got 3 people in there for the giveaway. It does an automatic drawing. We have no control over this. I'll try to put it up on the view. I don't know if David can show it on the bottom of the screen or not. But if anybody's interested, Dave's giving away some. What are you giving away, Dave?
I have a variety 20 pack. It's stickers that consist of aliens, Bigfoot, and ghost.
Nice.
And WROK Radio FM, we are going to give away 1 hour of free podcast time to anybody that wins today.
Oh, y'all better enter that. That's a good deal right there. That's a great deal.
It'll only allow you to enter one time. It's hashtag Bigfoot. When I say you get whatever you want to do for 1 hour, we run the board for you. It's all you got to do is show up with your guests. You got 1 hour to do a free show, and it's from WROK FM here in Las Vegas and Body Slamming Conversations.
Nice.
We're sponsoring the show today.
Nice.
We're gonna hang around till 9:30.
Okay.
That's
like. I just wanted to say, like, one of my dreams was always to have a terrestrial radio show. I just think that's so cool. Like Art Bell had like on that AM channel. I always thought that was just the coolest thing. I don't know why. I always did. I thought that was so cool. But now with internet, you can, you're not as, you can do it and run it on a budget. And I think that's so cool. But yeah, I always thought it was cool. Radios were always cool to me when I was a kid because I grew up listening to music. Like I'm a big music fan. I listen to everything. So it's really cool. So you guys should enter that to get that 1 hour of free podcast time. That's like, for those of you that are entrepreneurs or looking to get your brand out there, that's a solid idea. Nobody told me to say this, by the way. They didn't say, hey, Rob, we're going to give you $50 if you say it before. If they would have, I'd have hyped it up more. Not the point of the conversation. However, I would enter that. Like, that's a solid prize right there. Just and Robert are awesome as well. So, yes, sir.
WROK FM is worldwide radio. It airs in Germany, Denmark, all over the world. And now we have podcasts. My podcast from WROK also does it around the world.
That's so
not only
cool.
you just getting YouTube, we're shooting you out around the world. And, and I do a lot of independent music. If you're a singer or songwriter, if you send me a WROK TV Las Vegas gmail.com, I'll put you up on the radio station. It tells me how many people are listening to you, how they're listening to you by iPhone, Android, PC, whatever. And I can give you ratings and stuff like that. This is a gift that, everybody should enter this contest.
I agree.
The other night we did a show with 10 people in the room, a podcast with 10 people in the room. It was so loaded. People loaded up on Facebook so much that Facebook shut down and threw everybody out because we took up too much of their airspace, airtime.
Okay.
And you can only
Bandwidth.
catch, we killed our bandwidth. From what I understand, we had over 200,000 people on Facebook watching our show. It was the largest podcast show ever done. And you can catch part 2 of it. It picked it up on YouTube because Facebook and YouTube, I guess, are together. Well, the first hour and a half you missed, but the second hour and a half, YouTube did pick it up. So it's called Out There with the Biggest Span of 10. You'll see it on my site. Largest 10 podcast hosts. They're all podcast hosts on there. Everybody had their own show. We had Bigfoot people on there, alien people, witches, people who were healers, and all this stuff. Those people in the room all had something to give together on the show. So it was great show. We're trying to bring more stuff like that. And if you ever want to come on our show and do an alien thing, or I can help you out in any way, please get or at the end of the show, I give you my information. Love to have you, or anybody out there's got a show idea, or my show's about everything. I'm like the Tonight Show. I talk about everything, so no idea is a bad idea. And it goes for you or anybody out there that's listening. And Dave is a great host. I love him. I call him my brother. And
Dave's amazing.
The guy's amazing. And the people he's introduced me to are absolutely amazing. And it's been a pleasure again meeting you, sir.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Robert, I'm going to get your number. And whenever you're ready to want to go to my family property in West Virginia, I'll put you in touch with my nephew. Yeah, my nephew, and he'll be your guide and take you in there and show you all the areas and places where sightings have taken place. So don't let me forget to get your phone number. Yeah,
definitely. Yeah, me and my co-host would love that, and if he would allow it, we would love to do a podcast from the property. And if he's willing to talk, we'd love to have him on.
Sure.
That's up to him.
Also,
we don't force guests. If you want to talk, come talk. If not, we never make anybody come on the show that doesn't want to. I'm not about that.
Oh, he will. He's a human.
Last year, I was going to do an event, but I got sick. So in 2025, I'm going to do a 3 or a 4 day event.
Okay.
And it's going to consist of Bigfoot, Dogman, UFO, stuff like that on the property. Oh. And of course, it's what's the word for it? When you camp there, it's what's the word? Primitive.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, but if you had to, I could take you to my nephew's mom's house, which is right there on the property. But
right.
It consists of 525 acres, and it goes way up in the hills, and you can scream and yell, nobody will hear you.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I've been to places like that. So, love it.
Right. So I'll keep everybody informed of the event I'm going to do in 2025 before I shoot my movie and get that started. So, all right, let's. We got about it's only 9:12, I believe, or yeah. So, Randy, how do you want to do this? You want to do the winner now, or?
Well, we've only got 4 people in there right now, so give everybody a few more minutes. I put up there what they need to put in there. It's hashtag Bigfoot to enter to win. That's all I got to do is put it in the content down here where they're in the comment thing, and it automatically registers it up there.
Okay. All right, we'll do it closer to the 9:30 time, and all right, let's Robert, whatever else you want to talk about, you have the floor.
Okay. So anybody out there, if you got any if you have any expos, conventions coming up, let me know. I enjoy speaking. Like I said, I've been presenting for about, I would say 3-4 years now. A big thank you to Fred Saluga, Bob Schultz, them guys out there. They kind of gave me that break that I wanted to get in and start speaking. Of course, to Bill Rigby, for his convention, and Brian Seach. He had a convention on May. I want to say it was May 4th. I want to say May 4th. It was a Saturday, and I went there and spoke. And I've spoken in front of 50, 60 people, and I've spoken in front of like 5 or 6. I love, if you show up to an event where I'm speaking, you're going to get treated like I'm speaking to the world. I enjoy it. I love speaking to folks. I love talking to people. So if any of you out there has an experience and you want to talk to me about it, let me know. We'll have you on the show. I would love to have guests on there. The show itself, This Uncanny Earth, it's not, you're not going to get hit with the barrage of questions that most shows will hit you with. It's just like hanging out. I like this podcast right now. I feel like I'm hanging out. I don't feel like I'm being grilled about stuff. I don't feel like it's an endless barrage. I can be myself. You gentlemen can be yourselves. And that's how This Uncanny Earth is. We get to be ourselves. We goof off. We have a lot of fun. We talk about everything from Count Saint Germain, who was a supposed immortal. We had a show. My man here, Randy, he does magic. I had a show about the old time illusionists like Thurston and Carter and all of them gentlemen. I'm fascinated with that kind of stuff.
Hey, Rob.
Yes, sir. Sorry. Yes, sir.
The Count Germain you're talking about?
Yes, sir.
The guest that was on my show 2 nights ago, his name is Elijah Henderson. That's Count Saint Germain is his great uncle. It's in his family.
Supposedly that dude still lived. They never found his body. He was able to find the secret to immortality. Whether he did or not, that's a whole nother issue, but that's very interesting.
The family says he's over 400 years old.
Oh, man. I don't know if I could.
And they say he still walks the streets of New Orleans through the French quarters. And I had a guy on my show not too long ago, and I said, "Are you sure you want to say this?" He said he's a vampire killer, and he's hunting this guy down. And Elijah was in the room. He goes, "Well, that's like my great uncle in my family. I mean, they've got books and pictures of this guy. I mean, going back in their family history. So if you want to hook up with him, I can hook you up with him." He was just on our show. He's a really good friend of mine. He's down there. He's right there in Clarksville, Tennessee. He's a Bigfoot hunter and werewolf and stuff like that. The dog man. But Tracy was on there. We were talking about the other night, and I said, "Hey, bring that up," because Laura Lee wanted to get some information about Count Germain, and that's a relative in his family. So, see where everything comes together in a room when you're talking to guys. I didn't mean to cut you off, but if I kept listening, I'd forget that question.
Yeah, listen, I always think things happen, and as long as you put the work in, you can be successful in anything you do. You just got to put the work in. You got to go on shows. You got to have your own show and bring people on, because if you show love to the community will show you love back. And that's what's most important. Is I want to build a strong community of people that are like, "Hey, he's presenting here. Let's go ahead and go up there and see him," or "Let's go up here." And then people meet other people, and then you just build a dynamic group of people. I consider all of you and people like Bill Rigby and Brian Seach and all them good friends. Like we're all trying to figure this thing out together. And I'm not one to hide things. If I got something to put out there, I'm just going to put it out there. I am not a big fan of holding back the information just so you can profit off of it. I feel like I don't see anything wrong with making a profit doing what you love doing. I think that's fair. These presentations I go to, they cost money. I got to drive there. Yeah. My time is valuable to me. My time is very valuable to me. So I don't see anything wrong with getting paid to do this stuff, as long as you're doing it above board, as long as you're being a good person, you got a good heart for it, because people will recognize the minute you don't have that. And your authenticity, especially in this line of work, is the most important thing. And if you lose that authenticity, you're done. So that's why that's the one thing I like to say on my show is, if I say something that's not right, correct me and I will correct it on the next episode. We did a show on the Winchester Mystery House. and I was talking about it, and I didn't know a lot about it, so I brought some stuff in there. I called Janet Bowman, who was the historian of the museum, and I asked her, I said, hey, I got a show, and we were talking about the Winchester Mystery House. And I started talking to her, and she said, well, that's not necessarily true. Here's what happened. The very next week, I went on the show, and you can find it on Spotify. I got to re-upload some of our older episodes because we're with a different thing now. And I corrected all the things that I had gotten wrong because I believe in being authentic. I believe in being true to myself.
Amen.
I'm not going to talk about everything. I don't, because my whole thing is this. There's some things I don't have an interest in. So I'm not going to talk about it because I'm not going to be a fake person. I don't like being fake.
Right.
I don't like,
Right.
I'm not going to I'm not going to have a topic on a show where I don't care for the topic because you're going to see, oh, he don't care. He doesn't care about that at all. So no, I'm not going to do that. But I highly enjoy talking, about this kind of stuff. And hello to Logically Insane, who is Tennessee's son. Hello, sir. Hello, Ken. All that good stuff. Hello, hello, hello. Just wanted to say hi to the chat. Just want to say hey.
I would like to get a convention together here in Las Vegas.
Okay.
Not large, a small room, maybe 1,000 people. Have yourself, people like Tracy Jones on there, who's she's a white witch, and people some guys from Skinwalker Ranch come on there and do a little small convention where people can do a Q&A. You get up and talk. They can ask you questions. Have everybody speak. Everybody at the round table at one time. Vegas has never really had one of those. And I've been in the entertainment business, guys, for almost 40 years. I've always sold shows and done shows, but if anybody's out there that wants to do a convention, I will help you with this, or you can help me with this. I think it'd be great to get this kind of thing going. Have speakers like yourself, Rob, come on there and talk about giants, aliens. We all learn from each other, and I think that's a great thing with the podcasting. Like I said, I meet somebody new on here all the time. Dave has introduced me to some awesome people, and you're at the top of the list with all those awesome people, believe it or not. I find you very educational. I like to hear you speak, knowledgeable. And you know when people are fake, when you're shooting shit out of the bag. And when you're genuine, like he said, about your conversation, what you believe in, it just makes it so much better.
Yes, I agree. And I love doing this. Like I love doing it. I started, like people say, I started from the very bottom and just kept working and kept trying to climb and go as high as I can. I would love to very much, if I, Lord willing, I'd love to come out there. And then what I'd like to do is maybe have a couple days and then, film a couple things, have the podcast out there, go see some things. I'm a big fan of experiences. Like experiences are everything to me because I can sit here and read every book behind me, every single one. But if I don't have the experience, because your podcast, if you're talking about ghosts and you've never been to a haunted location, it doesn't help. You need to be there. You got to have these gut feelings. You got to be a little afraid. You got to be a little in wonderment. You got to just be out there and be ready, because things like this, I love it. But the experience is for me, and that's the goal at the end of the day is having experiences, because at the end of the day, I just want to enjoy life. And I think for me, it's this lane right here. I love talking to both of you. You're both very, very charismatic, very awesome. I enjoy talking to Dave. When I was on Dave's show, we had a blast. It was a fun conversation. Because I just believe that if you have a podcast and you're talking about something, as long as it's not something that's, totally serious, like money market investing and things like that, you're supposed to have a little fun with it. You're supposed to get along. It's supposed to be like you're sitting at a dinner table and you're having food with everybody at that dinner table and you're just enjoying yourselves.
I'll tell you what I'm gonna do for you. If you go to Dave's family's farm and you're gonna go out there and do an investigation,
yes, sir.
If you have cell service or whatever it is, I will air your investigation on my pod show for however long you do it for.
Okay.
You know, if you want to go
Yes.
out there and look around, and you know, I mean, on my phone, I've got a Galaxy S24. I can show stuff plus see myself at the same time.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
So yeah. So if you want to do something like that, I'll be more than glad to bump it up and let you be out in the field looking for whatever you want. And I promise you, this will go out worldwide. Everybody will see you. And anybody else out there that wants to do a Bigfoot investigation, like one in Tennessee and one North Carolina, we'll put you into the podcast. We'll do the same thing. They can do their investigation in 2 different states. I think this would be great podcast TV material.
Yeah, I agree. And like I said, our podcasts, we're every Thursday night, 10 to 11. We have guests on. We've had some amazing guests. I've had actors. I've had directors. I've had Bigfoot folks. I've had paranormal folks. I've had people from all. I even had a professor from Manchester, England. She was on because I'm very fascinated with cults. That's another thing like I'm really fascinated in. And the Shinrikyo cult, which was a Japanese cult that used sarin gas attacks years ago. She talked to the people that actually lived through it and some of the members themselves. And so we had her on the show. And I loved it. I love meeting people and learning. I like learning from other folks because there's things that my brain thinks one way. So interjecting that is just fantastic. I thoroughly love it. And I love the community you guys going on right here. So supportive. Been showing me love from these ever since I stepped in here. They've been showing me love, and it doesn't go unnoticed. I just want all of you people in the chat to know it doesn't go unnoticed. I take the time at every convention I've ever spoken at. My favorite part of the convention isn't really speaking so much; it's the Q&A afterwards.
Yeah,
I love it. I love hearing people say things like, "Did you know about this?" Like you did with the police chasing the aliens. I did not know this. So like, I absolutely love it. I am very grateful for everybody in this chat because without you folks, I wouldn't be here. And that goes across to our show too. If it wasn't for you people out there that listen to us talk, I would not be sitting here enjoying myself as much as I have in a long time. And Tracy, definitely, I'm on Facebook. You can find me, Robert Solomon. I mean, that's my name. So like, it's not Count Saint Germain. Maybe I'll change it tomorrow. Who knows? But
Tracy's a friend of mine. Tracy's a friend of mine and Dave's. I was on the phone with her yesterday for 2.5 hours. You know, the things she's enlightened me with about the things that have been going on in my mind, you know, and my dreams and stuff.
Yeah.
She calls her, she was born a white witch with a veil over her face. And she's got some really interesting things she talks about. This is another person that you really need to do a one-on-one on the phone with.
At some point, yeah.
To talk to her on a podcast, it's all right. But when you're on the phone, it's so much. I mean, I talked to her twice now, but on the phone, it's so much personal. And man, I'm telling you what, this woman touched my heart with things that she said, and I truly believe a lot of questions you're having about stuff, she could probably give you some good answers.
Oh yeah, I'm always looking to I like to better myself every day, even if it's something small, something minute, in my opinion. Maybe I didn't react in a certain way to a situation that I normally would have reacted to. I love that. So to meet other people and get a better idea of life, I love it. Like I love it. I love talking. Obviously, you guys could tell I've talked more probably now than I normally do, but I'm thankful and I'm grateful for you gentlemen, and you guys are awesome. So thank you so much for this. This has been very awesome to me.
Robert,
I
have Tracy on my show on June 7th.
That's a week from today.
Show. Yeah, on June 7th. It's 8 p.m. Eastern time, 5 p.m. Pacific time. Dave will be there, of course. If you would like to come in the room, if you would like to be a guest on that show that day on my Body Slamming Conversations, love to have you come out there with her.
Let's go.
Let's go. Be a guest. So I can, if you want to do it, I'll put you in the book right now for that day.
Let's run it. Let's go. I don't got nothing going on. That's the 7th. No, I ain't got nothing going on. The beauty is behind all this is that my Saturdays, like, I think, and this is something that I want to give to everybody right now is just like a little like advice. If you want to chase your dreams and you really want to be good at something and you really want to be the best you can be, you got to make sacrifices. You got to sacrifice. And it sucks.
Amen.
Like me, I'll have to get up tomorrow morning at 5 o'clock in the morning. I'll have to wake up at 5 in the morning to go to work because I have to. I still got to pay the bills. I still got to make money. I still got to do everything I can. So I'm gonna keep going. I'm gonna keep working. So I get up at 5 in the morning, but that doesn't mean I won't be on a podcast or do something that involves me working towards my dreams. Sleep, I can sacrifice sleep. Because you know what? I'm gonna be asleep permanently one day. I'm gonna be asleep permanently one day. So let's go. Let's go. I will be there. You said 8 o'clock. I will be there at like 7:45, 7:50. Whenever you need me.
It's 8 p.m. Eastern time.
Got it.
It's on June 7th. The reason I'm having Tracy back on because we did that show the night with 10 people, and I got like 15, 16 emails saying, "Why didn't Tracy talk? I want to learn more. I want to learn more about what she has to say." My sister calls me and she goes, "How come you didn't let that woman down at the bottom who's a white witch talk?" I'm like, "Why?" There's 10 people that kept asking each other questions. I try to give everybody a chance. And I had a big demand for her to be back on my show. They want to hear from her. And so she's going to be on that day. And I know once they hear you, you're going to have 2, 3, 4 times. They're going to want to have you back because, dude, you're an awesome speaker. I don't have to blow smoke up your skirt, that, because you've already got your fan club.
I will say this. I don't think there's anything wrong with being confident in what you do. I know I'm a good speaker because I've been doing it my whole life. I have had to make my way in this world, and I've had to have conversation with folks and had to deal with people. And I've worked, you name the job I've worked it. I've worked 12-hour factory jobs. I've worked retail. So I've dealt with people. I've dealt with people from all walks of life. I continue to deal with people from all walks of life. And I just like to conversate and tell stories and have stories told to me. So this is easy to me. This is second nature. Being respectful, being honest, those are things that are second nature to me. And so I just portray that as I'm continuing my journey through this thing we call life. That's it.
Well, like I said, it's been a pleasure. And,
thank you.
It'd be great to have you on there. And anybody out there listening, join us on June 7th. If you join me on June 6th, it's kind of going to be rated R, rated X. I've got I got a stripper and a prostitute that are going to be on the show about sex trafficking.
Oh.
So they've been sex trafficked. Those are the kind of shows I do. I do a little of everything. I hope everybody joins in. These girls talk kind of heavy, they talk the walk, but all my shows, I try to make them real. Dave tries to make his shows real. And when you get people like you, Tracy, it makes our show so much better and so much realer. You know what I'm saying? Because you're true to your heart. You're not out here to make a buck. We're not paying you to be on the show.
That's a lie. They both gave me $2,000 just to be here today.
I'm kidding. Next time you see me, I'm going to have like a nice gold chain, a nice suit.
All right, I got a problem. He gave you $2,000. I got $5.
Not my fault. You can't talk your way into $2,000.
Well, I got to give me a new manager. What the hell's wrong here?
No.
Hey, Rob,
thank you.
I'm hiring you as my personal manager.
That'll be another $2,000. No.
All right.
I love doing it because Dave showed me love, a lot of love that first podcast, and we had a blast. That was on a Saturday morning. That was a Saturday morning podcast. That was a good time. I had fun. So when Dave reached back on and said, "Hey, come on, I got a guy that wants to hear you talk about giants," I'm like, "Say less. Let's go," because I love it. I do. I love it. I love doing this. I love getting up in the morning and reading about it. I got a passion for it, and that passion isn't going to stop. So thank you, gentlemen. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you. You guys are awesome. Thank you.
Dave, we've only got 4 people who have entered the room into the contest. So whenever you want me to push that magic button, tell me when.
Yeah. Yeah, we should have done it earlier because there was a lot more people in there. But if I get any complaints, I'll send them all to you.
Hey, here's the deal. You got to watch the show to win. We advertised it. If you don't watch, you don't win. You know what I'm saying? So that's
right.
the bottom line. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna hit the big black button here. There's 5 entries. Wait a minute. It's moved up. We'll give them another few minutes.
Okay.
Gotta give him another few minutes on the video scope. Yeah.
Oh yeah, you know what I'm gonna slip into a slim.
That's right. Yeah. Don't be a coward like Hulk Hogan. Yeah, don't do that. Or else.
Oh, he got it.
Love the Mach. I grew up watching Macho Man. He was
I used to call Macho Man's house when he lived in Downers Grove, Illinois, when he was with Elizabeth. We were all wrestling together in the federations, and I'd call him and I go, "Oh yeah, Liz, tonight we're gonna have beef steak and put some corn on the cob." And she goes, "Okay, which Randy am I talking to?"
Oh yeah, it's the thing about it. You know, a cup of coffee, man. Cup of coffee. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I love doing the Macho Man impersonation. I love it.
I do a lot of impersonations. Dave makes me do impersonations of them all day long on the phone. We talk for hours on the phone, you know.
I bet you do. I bet you call up the phone. You're like, Dave, what are you doing? And he's like, I don't know. What are you doing? And you're like, I don't know.
Actually, I call up. I go, "Hey, Dave, this is Bill. Ask Killer what she did with that dress. Hey, ask Char. Hey, you know that dress what?"
Robert, I'm going to send you something in the mail. I'm going to give you my address. I'd like for you to give me yours. It's not $2,000, but you'll like it.
Yeah, I will. I would definitely appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, we're gonna have the drawing, Dave.
All right, here we go.
Tracy Jones.
Good. Tracy won. That's awesome. I'm glad to hear it. Tracy
I already
Jones.
have her address. Yeah. Congratulations to Tracy Jones.
Congratulations, Tracy. Nice. I like to see it. I love to see it. Love it.
Couldn't have went to a better person. She knows nothing about podcasting.
It's all right. Hey, maybe that's her way in to put something cool out there. You know, talk about like
now she can have her own show and do her own. You know,
I'll tell you what I like to hear. I'll tell you what I like to hear if she does a show like that. The different, I mean, this is by no means, you don't have to listen to me, Tracy. So, you know, you don't have to listen to me. But the different medicinal things that a lot of witches use and why they use them. Because that's like a little that's a little part of knowledge I haven't tapped into yet. So, and I find that kind of stuff fascinating because they've actually done research on those items and they actually do the things that a lot of the witches say they do, and they have a lot of medicinal purposes. So fascinates me. Anyways, I'm not trying to tell you what to do with your time. I think that kind of stuff's fascinating. My apologies.
And Tracy, I'm going to show you how happy I am for you. That was a good one. I like that.
That was great.
Yeah. So, Robert, I want to thank you for being our guest tonight, and you were awesome. I love hearing you talk. And in 2025, another event I'm going to do is going to be here in my hometown in Bucks County, PA. I'm going to bring you in as a guest speaker.
Thank you.
And I'll take care of you. And
appreciate you.
I haven't decided on a month or a date yet, but I'll be in touch with you and let you know about that for sure.
Let me know as soon as you can, and I'll promote it on the show. So this way, my audience gets an advance notice of when it's coming, and then we'll go from there.
Will do. Randy, any final words?
You know, I'm speechless. I had such a great time. I learned so much today from you, Robert. I love the conversation. All I can say is to everybody out there who watched the show today, thank you for coming on. Thank you for watching our show. Thank you for supporting us. If you liked our show, hit the subscribe button down on the bottom. If you'd like to advertise or support the show in some way, this is how we keep our shows together. You know, helps us buy cameras and stuff. Robert, it's not cheap for you doing your stuff, or Dave or I. You know, support's what keeps us going, guys. I'm not out here being a preacher begging for money, but we could all use everybody's help. And hitting that subscribe button down there to our YouTube channels really means a lot to us. And God bless each and everybody out there. And Robert, it's been my pleasure, as you would do, my friend. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Oh, no. I'm more than honored to have spoken to you two gentlemen today. So thank you very much.
All right, that about wraps it up. And Robert, once again, thank you for being our guest tonight. And I want to thank the listeners for joining in, and our lucky winner, Tracy Jones. That's about it. So good night, everyone. Good night, Robert. Good night, Randy. I'll talk to you in a little bit.
You got it. I'll be around.
All right.
Happy trails to you. We're glad you came.